To our regular meeting of City Council with Committee of the Whole for Monday, October 30th, 2023. Our first order of business is 2 delegations. 2.1, we have Miss Johanna Martens, Kiwanis Performing Arts Centre, in attendance regarding the proclamation to declare November 20th, 2023 as National Child's Day in Dawson Creek. So welcome, Johanna.
Come up there?
Yeah, you can come up here. All right. Whereas the children of our community are the future leaders, innovators, and caretakers of our world. And whereas every child deserves the right to grow, learn, and thrive in an environment that is safe, nurturing, and filled with opportunities. And whereas on November 20th, we celebrate National Child's Day, a day dedicated to acknowledging the rights and well-being of children across the globe. And whereas it is our collective responsibility to ensure that every child's voice is heard, their dreams are supported, and their future is filled with promise. Now, therefore, I do hereby proclaim November 20th as National Child's Day. Let us join together in reaffirming our commitment to creating a world where every child can flourish and reach their fullest potential. So, awesome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
On November 20th,
here, just one sec. Yeah.
what we're doing? Yeah.
There we go.
So on November 20th, down at CCR&R, we will be giving away free resources and activities to all families that come on through the center. So we're really just celebrating the fact that every child matters, and a whole bunch of early years organizations have come together to put this together.
Thank you, Johanna. And I think, on behalf of myself, the city and council, it's something we've talked about a ton here is that our youth are our future, and we know that. And I know I can speak for myself. That's why I'm here today, because it's all about how do we empower our youth, give them safe places, and just really every decision we make is about the future of our community for our youth. So it's definitely an honor to announce this as this proclamation.
Yeah.
So and thank you for all you do for youth too. So
Awesome. We love our kids. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. We can hug you.
Okay.
I know Melissa wants to get a picture. I think.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Thank you.
You bet. Thank you.
Awesome. I'll bring this back to our group.
All right, our next order of business is 2.2. We have Mr. Vince I should know this. We use this as a test. Wieringen and Brenda here from Northeast Métis Association in attendance regarding the proclamation to declare November 12th to the 18th, 2023 as Louis Riel Week in Dawson Creek. So welcome. Whereas the Métis people of Canada were instrumental in the development of Canada as a nation, and whereas historically the Métis people pioneered the development of the fur trade in Canada and continue to contribute to the economic well-being of Canadian citizens, and whereas the historical leader of the Métis, Louis David Riel, is recognized by the Government of Canada as the father of Manitoba and has penned the Manitoba Act of 1870. And whereas Louis David Riel continues to live in the hearts of the Métis people of Canada. Now, therefore, I do hereby proclaim November 12th to the 18th, 2023 as Louis Riel Week in Dawson Creek. So, yeah. Yeah, you're welcome. Congratulations. So, yeah, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor.
Well, I think it's, if the green light's on, yeah, it's working.
Thank you, Mayor Dober. Good morning, Mayor and councillors. Today, I do make some notes. I tend to talk a lot, so I know we have a time restraint. So a little today, I would like to talk to you about the important figure of Canadian history, Louis Riel. Riel was a central figure in Canadian history and known as for his leadership and instrumental role in the Métis movement in Western Canada. Louis Riel was born October 22nd, 1844 in the Red River settlement in what is now known as Manitoba. He was the grandson of Jean-Baptiste, one of the first French-Canadian fur traders to settle the area, and his wife, a Cree woman named Marie-Anne. Growing up, Riel was surrounded by Métis culture, which influenced him significantly in his later life. In the mid-1860s, Riel emerged as a leader in the Métis struggle for recognition and rights. He fought for the rights of the Métis people against the policies of Canadian government, which were aimed to dispossessing Indigenous people of their land and a way of life. Riel's leadership and activism led to the establishment of the provisional government of the Métis Nation. During his leadership, the Métis movement, Riel became a symbol of resistance and struggle for Indigenous rights in Canada. His charisma and skill as a leader united the Métis people and gained international attention to our cause. Louis Riel's legacy continues to be celebrated today with the observance of Louis Riel Day on November 16th, which is recognized as a public holiday in Manitoba, Ontario, and some other parts of Canada. The day serves as a reminder of the struggle of Indigenous peoples for their rights and recognition in Canada. Not only was Riel a political activist, but he was a poet, scholar, and writer. He wrote letters, books, and poems in both French and English, showcasing his intelligence and love for the arts in addition to his political beliefs. As the father of Manitoba, Louis Riel stood out for his passion, his respect for difference, his acute sense of social justice, and his defense of Métis and Francophone rights. Riel had a vision of what the Métis nation could be, and by setting the stage for Manitoba's entry into Confederation, made us more determined to keep it alive. As a proud Métis, I am inspired by this great Canadian hero, this man of vision, consensus building. Riel's legacy is felt today in Manitoba and across the country. As we proceed on our shared journey to reconciliation, we will continue to celebrate the progress that Métis people are making in fulfilling Riel's dreams and Métis having their rightful place in Canada. In closing, Louis Riel is a significant historical figure in Canada and a symbol of the struggle of Indigenous peoples for their rights and recognition in Canada. Louis Riel's contributions to the Métis Nation into the broader struggle for Indigenous rights are undeniable. Through observing Louis Riel Day, we honor his legacy and remember the importance for fighting for equity, respect, and justice. On behalf of our local Métis community, the Northeast Métis Association expresses gratitude to the City of Dawson Creek for recognizing the great Métis leader and his legacy by proclaiming the week of November 12th to 18th Louis Riel Week, raising the Métis flag with the City of Dawson Creek on November 16th, Louis Riel Day. The Northeast Métis Association and its members are proud to stand beside all of Dawson Creek and its community to celebrate our history. This day is a part of Canada's heritage. It's a part of my heritage. Thank you.
Thank you. I know last year I attended at the local AT Association downtown. They had the Louis Riel ceremonies with the children and the youth in there, and it was pretty amazing. Is that going on again?
We will. So 9 o'clock the flag will be raised, and 10 o'clock there will be pancake breakfast down at our...
10:30 till 1 will be pancake breakfast.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the evening will be a show and stew and bannock because it's supper after the show.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent.
And the office will be open all day.
Yeah.
People can come in and have a look.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Thank you, Brenda. Excellent. For that awkward moment.
Right.
Perfect.
Hey, thank you very
bet.
much.
All right, our next order of business is 2.3. We have Miss Jamie Gillingham, Health and Safety Officer, City of Dawson Creek, in attendance regarding to present the 2023 Organizational Safety Excellence Award from the British Columbia Municipal Association to Council. So I had a few notes on this, so I just wanted to touch on this. So just one of 10 municipalities in BC received this award. Dawson Creek was the only municipality in northern British Columbia. To win this award, the organization has to maintain a 20% discount rating. That is, their safety claims have to be 20% or more below the average municipality for 3 years in a row. This is one thing, it's not an award to one individual. It takes a team strength and all of our city leaders to get to this level. So, it's really for us, it's just about recognizing each and every individual that works with the city, and it really is our true acknowledgement to them. Also a big testament to our health and safety officer, Jamie. It's a lot of work and a big achievement to get the Work Safe BC Gold Standard. So thank you, Jamie, and to all of the team at the city. And it's just a true honor for this award for the city. So congratulations. So yeah.
Congratulations to everyone else too.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's fun.
Perfect. Thanks.
Thank
Did you want to say anything, or did you?
I think you covered it.
Okay. Sorry if I stole anything.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Get my sitting down now. Yeah. All right. I always forget to say this, but the delegations, you're welcome to stay if you want, or you're welcome to go whenever you want to. So whichever you choose. So, all right. Our next order of business, we're just going to move 2.4 till that's scheduled at 10 o'clock. So next will be 3 late items. So I just need a motion to accept the late item. Councillor Apollonio, second. Councillor McDonald. I'll just call that motion to vote. Yeah, should we just do manual tab or is it coming up? We'll just, for now, I'll just do all in favor. Any opposed? Oh, it's carried. So 3.1, we have memo from Mayor Dober regarding tickets to the 2023 National Women's Under 18 Championship. Councillor Kemp.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll read the proposed motion that Council award the 6 complimentary tickets the City received under the hosting agreement for each game for the 2023 National Women's Under 18 Championship to the Dawson Creek Minor Hockey Association to be distributed to its players.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Councillor Sudnick. Any discussion? No, I think it's covered in here. These tickets were ones that were just offered to the city. So, yeah, being a hockey event and a female event, we felt going to the youth of hockey in that sport and the females in that sport that it was the right place to donate them. So, all right, it looks like we can do this electronically. I'll call this motion to vote. Vote is closed, and it's carried. All right, next order of business is 4. We have new councillor business. Councillor Parslow.
Well, first of all, I'd like to extend my appreciation to the Mayor and those council members who were able to attend the event at the Reaffirmation Centre with the installation of 9 people into the Ken Borick Wall of Distinction. All are community exemplars, community builders, and it was a very, I thought, a very informative and a very nice event, nicely hosted by the staff at the Reaffirmation Centre. But people appreciated that the Mayor and many councillors who were able to attend did attend. So I'd just like to extend my appreciation for the team for coming. And another item is something that I don't want any action on. I just want to raise it as a possible topic for a future COW meeting. Okay. Our illustrious Chief Administrative Officer sent an email. I appreciated that he did what he did around Section 90 of the Community Charter. And it raises a number of questions in my mind that I think we need to have maybe a little bit of a discussion at a future meeting, and so that we're all working from the same page. There's also a few things that I think we need to establish some procedures over. And I'm referencing Section 90, Part 1, under N. And it's an interesting thing. We've never done this. And it reads, the consideration of whether a council meeting should be closed under a provision of this subsection or subsection 2. I would like to explore the mechanics of that at a future meeting of COW. I'm also very interested in discussing Section K, negotiations and related discussions respecting the proposed provision of a municipal service that are at their preliminary stages and that, in the view of the Council, could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality if they were held in public. And I would also like to discuss Section L, discussions with municipal officers and employees respecting municipal objectives, measures, and progress reports for the purposes of preparing an annual report under Section 98. So this is not the time, and I did not talk about this with Kevin. I just came to me as I reread this last night that, this I think is worthy of some discussion. So that's a request.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks, Councillor Parslow. Appreciate that, and also, just wanted to touch a little bit on that event on Friday too. It was definitely an honor to be there, and and all the
great.
work that went in. So thank you. All right, Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Worship. I just wanted to highlight a few things that I've been to and attended in the last 2 weeks. On October 20th, I attended a virtual PNP meeting with Chamber Executive Director Duncan Malkinson. This meeting was hosted by Irene Looney from the Ministry of Municipal Affairs, who was also part of our UBCM meeting with Minister Kang. Had some wonderful initial discussions in regards to the province's PNP plans for possible pilot projects with northern rural communities. There will be 3 types of proposed partnerships, including a navigator community, ambassador community, and a referral community. I'm just waiting on the slide deck from that meeting to possibly make a plan and try and form a proposal for a collaboration with some community groups in the community and stakeholders to see if we can make a formal enrollment into one of these types of collaboration to help our community and its labor issues that have been ongoing for, going on 15, almost 20 years now. Also, I attended the Ducks Unlimited annual fundraising event at the George Dawson Inn. This was my first time attending, and I was literally blown away by the amazing support that came from our community. Not surprising support, being in Dawson Creek, but just amazing. I just wanted to share some stats I received from Dan McLeod. This fundraising event was attended by over 260 people, 89 different sponsors to the event catalog, 42 donors of live and silent auction items. This fundraising event raised over $126,000. In terms of Ducks Unlimited fundraising events, this is the second largest gross income raised in Canada, second only to Toronto. It is also the largest live auction event that Ducks Unlimited will have in Canada. So I just wanted to give a huge congratulations also to, and I'm sorry if I get this name wrong, to James Schroeder, who was awarded Ducks Unlimited's Canadian Volunteer of the Year award this year. Just amazing. Huge congratulations to him. And I'd just like to send my congratulations to Don and Marg Barassa, the event chairs, and the complete board of the local Ducks Unlimited chapter on hosting an absolute world-class event. It was really good to attend, and I enjoyed it tremendously.
Excellent.
On October 26th, I attended as the liaison for the Dawson Creek Chamber of Commerce. Some notable initiatives and events coming up, including there will be a luncheon on November 14th with BC Hydro and Rotary. They're going to host their first chamber speaker event. There's going to be a new series hosted by Dawson Creek Chamber of Commerce. On November 16th, this will be a discussion on financial literacy with Gaurav Lal. And the obvious continuation of their very popular chamber mixers. And I want to congratulate them on a very successful launch of the This Week in Dawson Creek community newsletter. This will be a local newsletter dedicated to reporting on truly local events and news. And community members may have seen this in different restaurants in the community, different locations, and just a great newsletter, I think, with the sad loss of with our mayor, that amazing that they took the initiative to jump on this and continue to provide information to our community. And speaking of chamber mixers, on Friday I was able to attend, I believe it was Friday. It was a busy week. Thursday, right, sorry. Chamber mixer hosted by Rips Cleats and Frank Ripley. I just wanted to comment on what a truly amazing local business Rip Cleats is. They produce over 50,000 sets of cleats annually. They're being sold from, pole to pole, many places in between. And Rips is just an absolutely great supporter of local, whether it's, supporting seniors and stay-at-home moms to manufacture their cleats, supporting local initiatives, community partners, just an amazing organization, and what a great success story for Dawson Creek. So huge congrats to Frank and his team there. And finally, I wanted to just congratulate young McKenna Sudnick for being this year's Downtown Hero of Mile Zero. We all maybe remember that Duncan came in earlier in the spring to announce this collaboration between the Chamber and Tourism, where they were going to host little scavenger hunts throughout the community for tourists and locals to go to different businesses, collect their stamps, and then be able to enter in a draw for a wonderful basket of local items and treasures. And this year's lucky winner was McKenna Sudnick, so a huge congratulations to her.
Excellent.
Thanks, sir.
You bet. Thanks, Councillor McDonald. Councillor Apollonio.
Good morning. Good morning. Yeah, just reporting about my liaison. So I attended the Dawson Creek Public Library last October 23. Of course, the library manager just signed her new contract, and of course, the library just only following up. Of course, I think this is under Melina Sweeney for a camera on the south side of the library near the creek, because I think people are gathering there at the other side. So I think somebody smashed the window, so they need a camera there. I think this already been communicated to Melina Sweeney. And of course, they're also following up about the public library elevator for the accessibility on BC. And of course, they'll be submitting the budget for 2024 soon. And of course, as liaison also the My Place, and I think Councillor Jeremy Earl mentioned that it's new under Connective now, and SPCA or the South Peace resources will be leaving the agency, and of course now it's Connective. So I think Jeremy Earl will mention something about that. So yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Apollonio. Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Your Worship. I wasn't going to mention that. I think I've. I did just want to report back in my capacity as liaison to KPAC, and Johanna's here, so she can tell you if I'm making anything up. But everything's in good working order as far as the meeting goes. I did want to highlight some events coming up, and also congratulate KPAC for an event held this last Saturday night. The Halloween extravaganza. It was a sellout. I think around 250 tickets sold. 3 or 4 bands, 2 DJs, 3 bands, 2 DJs, local. Congratulations in particular to the Vice Jesters, who just released a 5-song EP, which is available of original music, available anywhere you listen to tunes. And it was a great time. I couldn't stay too late because I'm aging out of that program, but it was a lot of fun. I also want to highlight the Christmas market, which is coming up on the 18th of November at KPAC. In addition, local world premiere of the locally filmed and locally produced film Hard Reset with local actors and the folks at Macwood Studios producing, and then the KPAC AGM runs on the 27th of November. So encourage the public to look into that and come out if you're able to. And yeah, that's it for me.
Thanks, Councillor Earl. All right, our next order of business is 5, adoption of minutes. 5.1, we have minutes of the regular meeting of council from October 16th, 2023 for adoption. Councillor McDonald, second Councillor Kemp. I'll call that vote. Is everybody in? The vote is closed. I'm thinking it was carried. Okay. Next, any business arising? No, no business arising. 7, next order of business is 7, correspondence. 7.1, we have email from Sheila Bohm, President, North Central Local Government Association, received on October 12, 2023 regarding the 2023-24 membership dues invoice. Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to make a motion that we go ahead and pay this invoice.
Do I have a second? Councillor Kemp. Any discussion? No? No. Okay, I will call this motion to vote. Vote is closed and it's carried. Next, 7.2, email from Jack Middleton, Senior Advisor, Canadian Association of Petroleum Producers, October 18th, 2023, regarding the request for letter of support, reason build an energy action framework that works for all of BC. Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, I'd like to make a motion to have city staff draft a letter to Premier Eby and Minister Heyman requesting a pause of the government's emissions cap and work with us in Dawson Creek to set on an output-based price system that is competitive with other regions. Also request that the provincial government work with our region to develop a long-term vision for industrial growth that enables the type of emission reductions required and desired by us all.
I have a second. Councillor Kemp. Discussion. Councillor Parslow.
Yeah, I'm pleased to support this. I just want to share a few frustrations, I guess. UBCM, my colleague, Councillor Kyle here, have made a motion that is based really around the situation in the north and our need for natural gas for heating and the imposition of this continued escalation of the carbon tax. I find the provincial government somewhat playing both sides of the game here. This is not a game. This is serious stuff. The environment is a very serious business, but so is the funding of transition from dependency on fossil fuels to a more environmentally friendly source of energy. The reality is that technology does not exist for northern dwellers to be taken off fossil fuels. We need them basically to survive, but more importantly, the province needs the revenue to provide all these services that people want. And until there's a long-term plan that supports the economy, and until technology exists whereby people can actually, in an affordable way, heat their homes. The actions of the provincial government do not align with things that I know about from discussions with ministry representatives at the last UBCM in Whistler, where it is recognized that for almost from Clinton north, we will have to have a hybrid system, which is a blend of the use of fossil fuels and heat pumps. Heat pumps will not work in the north. And so they recognize that. And so when Kyle proposed this motion, it really showed to me that large sectors of locally elected officials have no empathy, seemingly no empathy, for the situation we in the North face. I've forgotten, correct me, I think it passed, but just by...
50.4 to 49.6.
Yes.
Just.
It was just passed, and that actually really annoyed me. Because when I think of, sure, some of us, we can afford to just to electrify everything, but the average person and the cost for businesses, that's the big frustration. I'm not an environmental climate change denier by any means. I'm the opposite way around. But with his responsibility of government is to secure, develop a plan that meets the needs of everybody. And so I'm enthusiastically support this, the intent of the motion that's been made. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Parslow. Councillor Earl?
Thank you, Worship. I'll support the motion as well, and I would agree with my colleague, Councillor Parslow. Certainly, we had some very good conversations with both our government counterparts at the provincial level and industry people at UBCM. One, I think, of the less inspiring subjects to touch on was energy transition, and resource development in general. We met with CAP, we met with other stakeholders in the energy industry, and, you know, as Councillor said, there's not one among them who would deny the importance and the immediacy of climate change, their frustration, and their apprehension as people who work in this industry lie around regulatory uncertainty. And, you know, when you're asking people to look at infrastructure projects that span 40 years and billions of dollars, not knowing whether or not the entire regulatory regime is going to be upended every couple of years really puts a damper on any capacity to make those kinds of decisions. And that's my frustration with this. I mean, and as this letter states, the new regulations will essentially result in existing infrastructure that's already been approved operating below capacity, not due to market forces, not due to some critical mass that was reached with alternative energy technology, but strictly through a cap that was imposed by government. For the people who made that decision on the presumption that they'd be able to operate this infrastructure at its capacity, that sends a really dangerous message. And for us in government, irrespective of what partisan banner you organize yourself under or what ideology you adhere to, one of our core responsibilities is to be stewards of institutions and ensure that those institutions, whether we're dealing with businesses, whether we're dealing with the public, whether we're dealing with Indigenous communities, are credible. And when, you know, governments do things like this, it makes them, it undermines the credibility of the institutions, not just a party. So I hope our letter and the letters they receive will be received in good faith with an open mind, and that we can move forward in discussion that is taking into account the needs of the region and how we can responsibly develop these resources in the future.
Thank you, Councillor Earl. Any other discussion? No? Thank you for putting the motion forward and for all the feedback. Definitely in favor of this. So I will call this motion to vote. Vote is closed and it's carried. Next order of business, 7.3, letter from Phoebe Lazier, Community Outreach BC Rural Health Network, received on October 17th, 2023, regarding seeking municipal endorsement, understanding the relationship between local health care and economic vitality. Anybody? Councillor Parslow?
For me, this is a no-brainer, so I would like to make a motion that we endorse or support this initiative and express that in a letter of support.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Councillor Kemp? Any discussion? No? All right. I will call this. Did you want to speak to it? Or you?
No, I don't want to speak to it.
Call this motion to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. Next, we have 7.4, letter from Johanna Martens, Executive Director, Quanah Arts Center Society and Daycare, received on October 23rd, 2023. A reason regarding a request for City Council sponsorship for the free community swim on National Child's Day. Before we get to a motion, I just wanted to touch a little bit. I know there's been some dialogue between Johanna, the KPAC, and Ryan just about how we can do this and support a day going forward. That day, I think there's a bit of difficulties because we have swimming lessons we're already committing to. SEALs is already at the pool. So that day is a little complicated. So I think the city staff and the KPAC are working to some kind of solution for what can be done. So at this time, besides receiving for information, we probably don't have much more to commit to. So did I get that all right, Ryan? Yeah, okay. So would somebody like to, Councillor McDonald?
Thank you, Worship. Through you, I'd like to make a motion to receive for information.
Thank you. Second, Councillor Kemp. Any discussion on receiving for information? No. I will call this motion to vote. Vote is closed, and it's carried. Next order of business, we have 7.5, letter from City Grant Writer, received on October 23rd, 2023, regarding a request for resolution of support for application to BC Active Transportation Infrastructure Grant. Councillor Earl?
Thank you, Your Worship. I will move the resolution requested as follows, that the City of Dawson Creek supports the grant application to the BC Active Transportation Infrastructure Grant Program for a grant of up to $175,000, 70% of the total project budget, for the development of the Kin Park Multi-Use Path Project. Further, the City of Dawson Creek commits financial support to this project in the amount of $75,000, 30% of the total project budget.
I have a second. Councillor McDonald? Discussion. Councillor Parslow?
Yes, so I have no problem supporting this at all, but it does raise a question I have to staff. I have been engaged by people concerned about the difficulties of connecting the path that goes through the Kin Park and then goes under 8th Street and on should go on to the multiplex, but of course with the erosion of the creek that has been compromised. The council of the day, I don't know which council it was, when the 10th Street Bridge was under renovation, we got a temporary bridge that would help pedestrians. That proved to be a very popular thing, and it was not moved, partly because it was well received, I think, but the other was that its length was not sufficient. So in the planning around active community transportation such as this, where is the city planning as it relates to reconnection of that important linkage?
You, Kevin.
So through your worship, part of these grants that this one and the next one, speaks specifically to some of the transportation planning process and specifically around that active piece, which is the trail network, as that's been identified by council as a strategic priority. So I think that linkage will be certainly a topic that will be addressed within that planning, and then really it's just capital funding that is really holding you back from making those connections. So one is, the crossing of the creek, which you were correct in what you said about the smaller bridge. Is it would take significant earthworks to use that shorter bridge, so we might have to source a longer bridge. So that's one. The other is the current trail to the east of Brookside Cemetery, the stability of the bank and that. So we need to look at relocating that, which, we have the ability and we have some space to do so. So really, it's really just once that that planning piece is complete, or even prior to that, we know what we could do there. It's just the capital funding and the prioritization of that to make it happen.
If I supplementary question at the same topic, you know how some of us get quoted incorrectly, so this may be an incorrect quote. It's not relating to any current staff member, but a former esteemed staff member. In their inquiries to that person, was told one major impediment was the lack of a sidewalk. The name of the avenue in front of where there used to be a chip plant or something there on the north side of the creek, and at one of the access points, right, was to this trail system was the road, but the road had no sidewalk to it. I apologize for not naming the name of the avenue, but I hope you've got a picture of that. I did not understand that, okay, because the wonderful 8th Street Bridge and that under the bridge connection, right, I thought that took care of the linkage. And I was surprised, and these are very responsible people who are talking to me, right? Well known to you and others here. Do you recall any discussions around that? Is there something I'm missing from the point of view of establishing the linkage from that trail that goes under 8th Street Bridge to eventually going to a Vintive? Why would there be an alternative route necessary?
So I think I'm making an assumption that in lieu of replacing the bridge behind the mall, an alternative route would be to take the 8th Street Bridge north across the creek, then head easterly past on 106th Avenue, past what was the old Kin Arena and which was the chopstick factory back in the day. Right. Heading easterly towards Brookside, that would be an alternative route, but you're correct that 106th Avenue has no pedestrian sidewalk. So, but as a comparable, that might be something to look at as a more economical option as opposed to putting a bridge in behind the mall, just as an alternative route. So.
Right. So that's all being looked at as in this year's capital budget? Or?
No.
No. Okay. Next year's? 2030?
If it is, so through your worship, if it's a direction of council, we can certainly put it in there, but the current capital program that will be coming to council does not have that.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Parslow. Thanks, Kevin. Any other discussion? I'll call this motion to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried.
Next, 7.6, we have a letter from City Grant Writer received on October 23rd, 2023, regarding the request for resolution of support for active transportation network planning grant. Councillor Parslow.
No, sorry.
Oh, Councillor Kempf.
Oh, thank you, Your Worship. I'll move the resolution requested as follows, that the City of Dawson Creek supports the grant application to the BC Active Transportation Network Planning Grant Program for a grant of up to $50,000, 33% of the total project budget for the development of the trail network and active transportation plan. Further, that the City of Dawson Creek commits financial support to this project in the amount of $150,000, which is 100% of the total project budget.
Thank you, Councillor Kemp. Second, Councillor McDonald. Any discussion? No. Right. I will call this motion to vote. Vote is closed, and it's carried. I'm just going to call a break for 10 minutes or so, and then we'll go back into 2.4. So thank you. We'll back to order for Monday, October 30th, 2023. Just back in the agenda, our next item was 2.4. We have Mr. Dale Morgan, Executive Director, and Alanna Schroeder, who's not here yet, but will be joining shortly, if she does, and the Regional Director, Ministry of Indigenous Relations and Reconciliation in attendance, regarding protecting Treaty 8 rights and supporting responsible resource development. So welcome, Dale.
Thank you.
Oh, I'll just turn you on. There you go.
Oh, there we go. Oh, look, it's got to be green in order to speak.
Yeah,
okay, that
green
makes
is
sense.
go. Yeah.
Thanks, everybody, for having me here. Just to test, can everyone hear me? Okay, I'm speaking appropriately loud. That's great. I have a presentation here. I've got 10 minutes, so I'm just going to get right into it. I am with the Ministry of Indigenous Relations here in Dawson Creek, and I'd just like to recognize that we are all on Treaty 8 territory and the homeland of the Denizah and Cree people. So what I am presenting today is to just start with some context, talk about various agreements that have happened over the course of the last year and a half or so, walk through some important components of those agreements, highlight some of the goals that we're trying to achieve, and then talk about resetting the balance and open the floor for questions. I'm going to go fairly quickly, and I'm fairly certain that most of you have the opportunity to take a look at this if you want to or have already looked at it. So I think it might be best if I do questions at the end, or I can do them during the midst. It's up to you folks. Yeah, I think that's fine. We can do that. Okay, great. So first, a little bit of very, very quick history lesson. Treaty 8 is one of what we call a numbered treaty. It was first signed in 1899, and it's a very large area that encompasses British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and a wee bit of the Northwest Territories. And you can see that in the brown part of the map there. It encompasses a variety of different First Nations. Here in the Northeast, the Denizah, Dene, and Cree people, and there's about 8 Treaty 8 First Nations that are in BC. So why does this matter? Well, it's a treaty, and we have to respect it. In June of 2021, Blueberry River First Nation was successful in a court decision, BC Supreme Court decision, and the court made several declarations, and they're all there, but the biggest declaration that really matters is, well, they all matter, but one was that the judge found that there wasn't sufficient or appropriate lands for Blueberry to meaningfully exercise of their treaty rights. And this is a really big deal because that means that we breached the treaty, which is a significant finding and one that really resulted in the province having to shift gears from business as usual that we had been carrying on with, and our defense, from the province's perspective, prior to the Yahé decision, that's what this court decision was, our defense was that the management systems that the province has in place for how we manage natural resources respected the Treaty 8 rights through a very in-depth consultation process and other agreements that we had in place. And we felt that that was adequate to manage for treaty rights and to meet the interests and needs of all Treaty 8 First Nations. That's not true. And as a result of that finding, in the last 2 years, the province has had to reevaluate how it does its work with anybody who's doing anything on the land base. And that's what this is all about. Fundamentally, it's about trying to find out ways in which to manage for Treaty 8 rights first and reset that balance. So I kind of just told you why we need the agreements. It's there to try and figure out a way in which we can manage for moving forward past the Yahé decision ruling. And this is my colleague, Alanna Schroeder. Welcome, Alanna.
Oh, that's all good. Thank you.
And how do we manage the landscape in such a way that we are able to meet the interests of Treaty 8, but as well as balance the interests of industry and economy and people who live here, all of those things together. So Blueberry won a court case, so we had to deal with that. And so we did first an interim agreement in October of 2021. And that was really important because it allowed us to carry forward with some decisions that were made for industry and for the economy to move forward. And so that's why there was an interim agreement. And then that was followed up with what we call the implementation agreement, which was signed in January of this year. And that's for just Blueberry. Of course, there are 8 other Treaty 8 First Nations, or 8 total, sorry. How do we deal with them? They, of course, very clearly and correctly said, well, not only does Blueberry have these court findings, but Blueberry's rights are our rights. We live on the same land base. We share the same everything. So therefore, you should be thinking about us as well. And that's true. And we did. And in order to do that, we sat down and developed what we call the consensus document. And then in January of 2023, we signed what we call letters of agreements, which give effect to the consensus document. And then we also entered into some revenue sharing agreements. And that all of these agreements together have provided over the course of the last, not quite a whole year, but close, a path forward so that we can still continue to make decisions on the land base that would allow for oil and gas, forestry, range, all of those things that are done on Crown land. So what were we trying to achieve? At the end of the day, it's really about resetting the balance to go from a space where we thought, through our consultation processes and so on, that we were respecting the treaty. Clearly that was not true. So now we are trying to figure out a way to find a new balance. And that's what these agreements are all about. So the Blueberry Implementation Agreement has some very clear purpose and goals and structures. I won't get into detail on them, but that's what we're trying to do. And ultimately, it's going to be a big focus on enhancing our restoration activities, because if we're in a deficit in the context of lands available for the practice of Treaty 8 rights, how do we change that? Well, we change that by a focus on restoration to bring lands into a space where they can be utilized, as well as create spaces where they can be protected and managed for, and then work with industry and others to try and develop processes and systems that maintain the opportunities for practicing Treaty 8 rights. The consensus document, again, that's with the other Treaty 8 nations, and it's doing the same thing. It's talking about managing for cumulative effects. It's talking about managing for the land and talking about sustainable and respectful resource management. So what are the key priorities? Here they are. There's 7 of them. And they all are very important. One of the big outcomes right away was some changes to how we do wildlife management. And there was changes to the wildlife regulations, which reduced the number of moose that were harvested last year, which was what Treaty 8 was talking about. They're saying there's too many people out there, too many people taking too many moose. How do we change that? And that was a change that happened. And I think it worked. And we're now in the midst of doing some more changes. Focus on restoration, like I said, land use planning, trying to figure out how to balance that development on the land base and so on. And then the last one I'll talk about is honoring the treaty, which is really about making awareness of what the treaty is and why we have the treaty. I'm not going to jump into all the details here, but these are each of the key components that we talk about, and these are mirrored in all of the agreements. A big piece is land use planning, and we've split the Northeast into 3 zones, South Piece, North Piece, and then the Liard. And these are the zones that we're going to be doing a variety of different detailed land use plans. Those are just being launched now, and there's a lot of work being done in this space. The next few slides kind of talk about like how some of these early planning processes go with a focus on the North Piece. You can see the variety of colors there show areas that we're proposing to either have as outright protected areas or really change the dynamic in what were usually sort of a resource forward zones and move them into resource development, but with clear objectives with the goal of ensuring that Treaty 8 rights can still be practiced in them. And so we call those HV1, HV2, HV3, that kind of thing. And that means high value area. That's what that's what HV means. The consensus document did the same thing. Highlighted a whole bunch of different colors there. And again, these are all about areas that we're working on trying to figure out ways to change the way in which we manage the land base. So you can sort of see some ideas about how we're going to move forward. I'm going to jump right to the end because I'm running out of time. It's okay if you need a few more minutes, Dale. Okay? All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
A lot of material. So I'll go back. You can see these slides I think are really quite important. You can see today, very little actually protected areas, very little compared to like, with 17 million hectares, 0 kind of attempts to, we did some stuff around Caribou, we've done some things in the Peace Moberly Track. There's a little bit of stuff along the south slopes of the Peace River, but overall, pretty small amounts of real like in-depth changes in protection, and it was kind of open season for forestry, oil and gas, range development, whatever you wanted to do out there, wind energy, coal development, so on. Now we have a very clear understanding from the various different nations, areas that they think are of interest and are important to them, which we always knew, and we always kind of were trying to work through on maybe a permit by permit approach to deal with their interests. Now we really are targeting these areas, and there's going to be, I think, fairly substantive changes to how we do management. Don't look at this map and say, oh my gosh, that's all going to be park or whatever. That's not what it is. It's about changing the dynamic and changing how one would go about getting a permit for forestry or whatever. It doesn't mean that the activity wouldn't occur. It just means it would occur with different conditions and different constraints and different objectives and goals than we currently have. And that work is in progress right now. So this is a slide about cumulative impacts, cumulative effects, which is effectively what land use management is all about. So we did provide revenue sharing with the various communities. Those revenue sharing agreements were only for a couple of years. They actually expire next year. So we're in the midst of talking to them about how we would change our revenue sharing opportunities. And that will give everybody an opportunity to have the resources that they need to be able to do the work that we just talked about. Because it's quite a lot of work, and it needs a lot of effort. And so without having a way in which they can have resources, it's very difficult to carry the work on. This is the one that Honoring the Treaty MER leads. What we need to do over the course of, it's only been a year, but we've got lots of work to do in this space, really bringing Treaty 8 to the forefront so that people know that they live in Treaty 8 territory and understand what that means. We are all treaty people. That's the whole point of having a treaty. It means that there is a responsibility on everybody to understand what our obligations are. And, the courts have told us that the province has not upended its side of the deal. And so now we've got to make some changes to ensure that we're doing that. And one of those is just awareness that hey, when you're out there on the land base, it's not just about what you're thinking. It's also another group of people have rights too, and we have to figure out how we can share those. And at the end of the day, if you look at and read Treaty 8, it really is a friendship treaty. It's about two peoples coming together and figuring out how to live on the same land base together and do that for as long as the grass grows and the sun shines. I believe that's a quote from the treaty itself. So that's that ultimately, what does that mean? That's about resetting the balance. It's going to be a lot of work. We've only been, we've been at it, you could say that we've been at it for forever, actually. And the courts are giving us prods and pokes and direction and declarations that move us to a place that gets us better and better about trying to figure out how that balance works. So that's what we have a lot of work to do, resetting that balance. So just to end here, give you an opportunity to ask us some questions, but also to give you some further reading if you're interested. We do list the agreements at this link here called First Nations A to Z. There's actually agreements for many, many First Nations on that list. And as we enter into agreements, we post them here as soon as we can. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time, but almost every agreement will be posted there. And there we go. Open questions for you folks. Perfect. Thank you very much, Dale, for the presentation. I'll open it up to council first here. Councillor Parslow.
Yes, I think it's the first time we've come into contact, isn't it, Dale?
Me being here, yes.
Yeah.
I've been to the regional district. I've been to other communities. And some of you may go to the Northeast Roundtable, which is an open forum that we have every 6 weeks or so. There's lots of local government people go there too.
Okay, just for my understanding, are you a provincial employee or federal government?
I am. I'm a provincial employee.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Just disclosure, I do a lot of work for different First Nations groups. Unfortunately, we've had some things happen in the Peace region that have really put, in my opinion, race relations backwards rather than forward. Unfortunate as it is. But, I like some of the language that you have here in the presentation very much. But one of the areas that I'm asked a lot about, I think could be captured by the expression mutual accountability. If resources are being provided for enhancement of, let's say, the environment, restoration of the environment, what accountability models are there in these agreements?
So, the province is accountable for, I'll use restoration as an example. We're in the process, the commitment from the province is a $500 million restoration fund over a 10-year period. The development of that fund is happening in real time right now. It's not the way in which we're putting those funds together and who's doing what is still being sorted. But the idea of accountability would be that the province would provide the funds, the province would provide oversight of the funds. Building this likely going to be a committee of some kind that would oversee the actual activities or see that those activities are being done. And then there's an accountability piece on the restoration. Like, okay, so you spent some money on restoration. What did it do? How did it work out? Is it moving the dial forward in the context of restoring the land to a space where Treaty 8 rights can be actioned or utilized? And is it improving, say, be it moose habitat or beaver habitat or whatever it is that the restoration activity is trying to achieve? So that's where those mutual accountabilities are being developed. And that's one example in the restoration space.
Sure. No, it's good.
Councillor Parslow,
Yeah.
you shut your
Oh,
microphone
sorry.
off.
Just in the presentation, you reference a document where and it has the same title as the book that I've read, Where Happiness Dwells. Can you describe that document a bit? Is it building on the content of that book, or is it something very different and they've just used that title again?
I'm going to have to, I know what Where Happiness Dwells is, but I don't know if I see the linkage. Which
We had the link.
do we have the link?
To Blueberry's website.
Oh, Blueberry's
and they
website.
have-
Okay, thanks.
That's fine.
That's why she's here. So the Blueberry Agreement is really about trying to get us to a space where we have those declarations that the court found for the Yahe decision. The Blueberry Implementation Agreement defines a path forward so that if we follow that agreement, we are achieving a negotiated path past the court's findings. And without doing that, then the declaration that you breached the treaty and therefore you can't do any more activities in the land, that would actually kind of stand, and it would be illegal for us to do new permits and other things. So that's why the Blueberry Implementation Agreement was so important.
And they've just used that title because that book is an important book to them, and it isn't an expansion on that book. It is just a nice title for what they want to do.
So thank you, and I apologize for being late. In recognition that some of this work and the impacts of the court case have an effect on all their neighbors, Blueberry actually created some material on their own website that illustrates why they went to the court decision and what their perspective in order to help bring the public along. And so their website, I think that we linked, is called Where Happiness Dwells. And that's because that book was an anthropologist, I think Robin Riddington, looking at studying and building relationships with the Beaver people. So I think that Where Happiness Dwells was the English translation of the name of the Montney area where originally the reserve was before it got moved. So the Beaver language for that area translates to Where Happiness Dwells, I believe.
Thanks, Councillor Parslow. Any other questions? No, I guess too, I should have brought up maybe to council that Dale did do a presentation to me. I think it was in May around the same stuff, so that's why we invited him back here to do it in front of council. But I did have a few questions, Dale. One, I guess what's the provincial government's plan on like the education and communication part? Through this new area we're going to, but to the BC residents, because there seems to be a lot of misunderstanding out there, and at a municipal level, we deal with a lot of that, coming at us. And so one, we lack the education a little bit on where everything's at, but also the general public, everybody, like there's just, everybody's on pins and needles around this whole, area and the Treaty 8 where we're going, and it just doesn't feel like there's a bunch of education going out there. So I was just wondering what, the government's commitment is to getting that out. And then I'll talk a little bit too, leading into, you mentioned about the moose hunting up here, that was worked with the treaty. And so when I had some discussion with them around that, and what my understanding is that they wanted to keep it where it was more open to resident people, so Indigenous and non-Indigenous resident harvesters, and the provincial government decided to go away from that and go to a LEH draw. So that alone too, is part of the whole communication piece, because maybe I'm miscommunicating, but it's just, I feel like there's, I'm not saying a lack of communication, but it feels like there should be some more education coming.
Yeah, so I think that's a really great point, and it's one that we're very well aware of. We're actually working. Well, first of all, I just want to put the time frame. The province January 2023 wasn't that long ago. I mean, I know it feels like it was long ago. It's almost a year, but there's been a lot going on. One of the things that we are actively going to hire a consultant who will help us develop a communication plan, which we'll then begin to implement. And we're in that process right now of building some of those tools to really increase the awareness. And so that's something that's happening. Is it happening as fast as we'd like? No. But I am pretty happy with how fast we're moving in the context of generally how fast things move in the province. There's a lot going on, and yeah, you guys all laugh, I know. Yeah, that's true. There's a lot going on in a variety of different spaces, and so everything's, there's only so much time and there's only so much resources, and so, but this is one of the top 7, and so it's going to be something you're going to hear more about. The other piece that you talk about, like say for example the hunting reg change, it's true that the decision was made to go with an LEH as opposed to as Treaty 8. Many of them were quite adamant that they wanted to see less sort of 604 hunters, more I guess 250 or whatever we are here. Yeah. And there wasn't really a mechanism in the way in which the legislation is developed around wildlife management for that to occur. There's still a lot of conversations going on in that space right now, and I'm thinking that there may be some changes that try to get more receptive to the idea of local hunters. Now, that's not a MER thing, and I can't really speak to it specifically because it's not my ministry and I'm not a lead on it. But that's a live issue, and it's not just here. It's quite a common concern across the entirety of the province. A lot of First Nations, especially ones that live kind of, at the end of the road, kind of, in places that are a bit more isolated, they really feel it when people come hunting in their neighborhood, and they really notice it when it's not like someone that they know, and that can concern them, which, that would concern anybody, I think. So yeah, we have lots of work to do on that. But at the end of the day, the balance here is that how do you provide for an opportunity for people to enjoy the outdoors and hunting across the entirety of the province, and that's a difficult balance.
Yeah, and I think getting that communication education out is important. And the reason why, the moose one was just an example, but it was one that was, by the provincial government was put out that the treaty wanted this, that's why it's there. But then because of, the impact it's had to resident hunters and not truly what they wanted to, there was a negative spin to the First Nations, which is tough for them, right? Because this is new territory, and then, that comes back onto them. So it's just almost like a couple steps forward and 10 back. So that's why I just wanted to bring that up. And I think you reaching out and having a meeting with myself and May, and then coming here to do this is part of the communication and education, because, it allows us to ask those questions and to get educated. So then we are more confident and comfortable speaking to, to where things are at with the province. So, it's definitely appreciative that you're taking the time and that the province is, coming here to educate us. So, I don't know, is there any other questions? No? Oh, Councillor Parslow?
No, I'm glad you raised the hunting issue, because everything you said there is bang on what I hear as well. It's a major flashpoint, for sure. I just need to confess, I've been reading Jody Raybo Wilson's book on reconciliation, and I had to stop reading it, because it was going in directions conceptually I could not get a grasp on many of the things that she was asserting, right? And so if somebody who has a heart for reconciliation and recognize many of the need for change, if I have a difficulty understanding what reconciliation actually looks like in the long term, there are some things we can all do that conceptually I can understand, but there's many things within my worldview, to use a Jody Wilson perspective, I'm having real difficulties. So this work is is going to be into many generations, I think, in us really walking deeply into reconciliation rather than superficially. And right now, I think I'm at the superficial level.
Yeah. Well, I think you're right. I could probably come here and talk to you all about reconciliation in a variety of different ways for a long time. And it's interesting because reconciliation is if you look at the declaration that the province has entered into, it's quite unique. The idea that we're going to change all the laws in the province to better reflect a way that allows us to respect Indigenous rights and non-Indigenous rights at the same time on the same land base is an absolutely fantastic, scary, daunting, amazing thing to do all at the same time, and a huge amount of work. And so I think, we're 2 years in, 2.5 years in on the declaration, something like that. We as a province have started a path, and it's going to take a long time. I don't think that anyone ever thought it would happen overnight. I think the biggest thing for me anyway, personally, is that we just start talking about it. No one talked about it I don't remember talking about it when I was a kid. When I first became a forester many years ago, I don't remember talking about it. Now we should be. And how do we share in a meaningful way? I think that's the big deal that we're all going to have to reconcile. Thank you. Councillor Aplonio?
Thank you, Your Worship. I think Mayor Garza just bring this up because last September 25, during our council meeting, I think we have this 38-member Richard C. Minot presented a delegation here, and I think he wants to adopt and implement the Cultural Assessment Workshop, a First Nation Cultural, Historical, and Social Awareness Workshop, which I think maybe you could help him or maybe connect to him. His email address is at the back, so I will share it to you. So at least, because during that delegation, I think we didn't come to anything. So if you'd like to reach to him about this, because he wants to present a workshop to the city or maybe to the council. But I think since you're representing the BC government, and I think you could connect to him, I'm not sure.
What was this a BC government person, or was it?
No,
it
wasn't. No, it was just somebody that came into the delegation to city
So just for education, I think.
Yeah. If you could share that with us, that'd be great. I'm not sure if I know exactly what it is, but I would encourage everyone. We just did one last week as a group to go to some cultural awareness programs or courses or whatever. I think they're quite useful.
Yeah.
You could learn a lot.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Councillor Aplonio. Any other discussion? No. Well, thanks, Alanna and Dale, for coming in and presenting to us. And as all of this develops and there's going to be changes, we welcome you back to educate us. So we appreciate your time and taking the time to come in. So thank you very much.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. All right, our next order of business is 8 reports. We have 8.1, report number 23-164 from the Communications and Engagement Manager regarding City of Dawson Creek land acknowledgement. Councillor Kempf.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll read the recommendation, the report number 23-164 from the Communications and Community Engagement Manager regarding City of Dawson Creek land acknowledgement statement be received. Further, the Council approve the following statement. The City of Dawson Creek acknowledges that we are privileged to live and work on Treaty 8 territory and the traditional home of the Cree, Dene, Saltu, Siksni, and Selvari First Nations. We value the Métis people that live and gather here. We commit to upholding and respectful relationships with these nations have built with the land, and we acknowledge our responsibility to carry that forward today and into the future. Further, that the land acknowledgement statement be used during the following. 1, at the beginning of every council meeting. 2, at the beginning of every formal city host event to be defined in a corresponding administrative procedure, and 3, in the email signatures of all City of Dawson Creek email accounts.
Thanks, Councillor Kemp. Do I have a second? Councillor Parslow, discussion? Council, I guess just before I get into discussion, I just wanted to send a little thank you to the city team, Melissa, especially on how much effort went into to coming into this. I know it was past almost a year ago that we developed this, so there was a lot of time and effort spent into this. So I just wanted to give a thank you to the team with the city and Melissa especially, so thank you. And Councillor Parslow.
Yes, so I'm supporting this, obviously. I just have a question. I'm maybe not a question, just a statement. One of the things that I'm appreciate many First Nations that I've had a lot of dealings with, primarily on the northwest coast, is when something as significant as this is being formulated, there is often a culturally appropriate ways of communicating this. I don't know what they are for the Beaver Nation and Soto. I know what they are for the Nisga'a and the Haidas, right? But I suggest that we explore that with appropriate people from these nations. I don't think it would be adequate just to send a notice of resolution to them, right? I think there's a far more, this is far more significant than that. It might even be having it put on a proper charter sort of thing and presented in consultation with the various chiefs. So don't want us to forget that.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Parslow. I appreciate that. Any other discussion? No? All right, I will call this motion to vote. Vote is closed, and it's carried. Next, 8.2, we have report number 23-151 from the corporate officer regarding the 2024 Business Façade Improvement Program. Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Your Worship. I will move the recommendation that report number 23-151 from the corporate officer regarding 2024 Business Facade Improvement Program be received. Further, that Council supports the application to Northern Development Initiative Trust from the City of Dawson Creek for the grant of up to $20,000 for the 2024 Business Facade Improvement Program. Further, that Council approves the 2024 Business Facade Guidelines attached to this report.
Thank you, Councillor Earl. Do I have a second? Councillor Apollonio, discussion?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank staff for their work. I know this program has existed in town in one iteration or another for some time. And as a councillor and through my other work at the credit union, where we've actually been an applicant for it, I have received some constructive feedback about how this initiative could be better administered to support local business. And it looks like much of that feedback found its way into the new guidelines. So I appreciate the work from staff and community futures up to this point as well. I know, it's a significant investment that businesses make when they look to give their building a facelift, but it does go towards beautifying our city and making it more appealing. So it's a great program, and I hope we are successful in getting the message out to the community and business owners to take full advantage of it.
Thanks, Councillor Earl. Councillor Parslow.
I think I say this every time we approve this. I wish we had some unifying theme. I always look at envy with the town of Smithers and their unifying theme. It would make a heck of an impact on tourists and would be something that could multiply in its impact as people started copying it. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Parslow. Any other discussion? I had a few comments, maybe a question around this. I'm, in favor of this, and I wanted to thank Tab as well for all the effort that went into this. I know there was a lot of back and forth and a lot of communication that I seen around it. So, I guess one, right now it's $2,500, so we're proposing moving it up to $5,000. So I look at in this year, this program wasn't used much, and I think we've been pushing it, and we're getting more traction. Obviously, this year we're using 14,000 of the 20, so that tells me that there's at least 6, 7 maybe that applied for it. So moving up to 5,000 and a $20,000 limit, I don't want to stifle the program, because now potentially if 4 companies or 4 individuals applied for this for the full 5,000, we're going to be limited to 4. So has there been any discussion with NDIT around if we run into that problems where the program is getting over successful? Is there any chance that they would look at or moving funding from a different program to this? Maybe I know they have some other programs that maybe aren't utilized as much in the north. So has there been any discussion around that?
Through your worship, no, there hasn't been any discussion regarding that. I can take that back to NDIT and get back to you on it.
Okay, I'd appreciate that. The other one too is for example, if it's up to 5,000 and say we had, couple companies not apply for the full 5,000 and then there's just a couple thousand left in the fund, do we then put that out to anybody that's applying, look, we can't do the full 5,000 because there's only 2,000 left this year, or how does that work? We haven't had that problem because it hasn't been full, so.
Correct. And there is no minimum. So some may not be applying for the full 5,000. Some may be just applying for 2,000. Maybe they just want a sign or what have you. So if there is only 2,000 left, then yes, that is something that we would communicate with the company, and perhaps they could apply again for the following year for something different that would incorporate the total work that they wanted to have done.
Okay. And then just to clarify out to the public, the 5,000 is a portion of the grant. They then need to commit 5,000 of their own too, right? So it'd have to be a $10,000 total project plus to qualify for the 5,000.
Yeah, if they're asking for the maximum.
Yeah.
If they're only asking for 2,500, then obviously they're only contributing 50% more.
Okay. Awesome. Great program, and NDIT does a lot of amazing things, and I like these new changes, so thank you and good job. So, all right, if there's no other discussion, I'll call this motion to vote. Vote is closed, and it's carried. Next order of business is 8.3. We have report number 23-154 from the Community Service Manager regarding Facility Code of Conduct Reaffirmation. Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move the recommendation that report number 23-154 from the Community Services Manager regarding the reaffirmation of the Facility Code of Conduct be received. Further, that the Code of Conduct for city facilities be reaffirmed.
Thank you. Councillor Earl, do I have a second? Councillor McDonald, do you want to just?
Thank you, staff, for bringing this back. I'm very happy to move the motion and support it. I regret it's necessary. Obviously, our staff takes a lot of pride in providing the services they do to the public, and they do it sometimes under some very difficult circumstances. And while I think the vast majority of the public is very appreciative and respectful of their efforts, there is a small cohort who sometimes, assuming they have a captive audience, maybe take some liberties. And that's why we have this code of conduct, to remind those folks that, while yes, we all pay taxes for these facilities, when we're in them, we're still all guests, and we're all expected to abide by a certain standard of behavior. So happy to reaffirm it. And I hope for those who need to hear it, the message will be heard loud and clear.
Thank you, Councillor Earl. Any other discussion? All right, I will call this motion to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. Next,
order of business was 9 bylaws. 9.1, we have report number 23-159 from the corporate officer regarding public notice amendment bylaw number 4572, 2023 for consideration of first 3 readings. Councillor Kempf.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move the recommendation, the report number 23-159 from the corporate officer regarding public notice amendment bylaw number 4572, 2023 be received for the public notice amendment bylaw number 4572, 2023 be given first 3 readings.
Thank you, Councillor Kemp. Do I have a second? Councillor Apollonio. Any discussion? Maybe I had just one question to staff. I'm assuming this is about the paper being done, but I know we have a city app. Is there any capacity with that app to utilize it as a communication tool? Like where you can be put out? Like I know there's a lot of people on that app for other reasons, but I don't know, is there any capacity?
Through your worship, I'm being told by our communications manager that I think there is some possibility. We've also recently discussed looking at improving on the app because it was really, when we first got into that, it really focused on waste and recycling. And so there is some limitations to that. So I think we're going to explore what that could look like with a little more robust app into the future.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I just thought I'd bring it up. It was actually the regional district, similar thing was brought up with their app. And I know it's such a struggle to communicate, and some are newspapers, some are social media, and it's tough, right? So I thought, yeah, it was something interesting that was brought up there that they were going to look, because there's an app there as well. So, okay, thank you. All right, any other discussion? No? I will call this motion to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. Next order of business 9.2, we have report number 23-160 from the corporate officer regarding land sale 64 Vic Turner Airport Road, bylaw number 4571, 2023 for consideration of first 3 readings. Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Worship. I'd like to move recommendation that report number 23-160 from the corporate officer regarding land sale of 64 Vic Turner Airport Road, bylaw number 4571, 2023 be received. Further, that land sale bylaw number 4571, 2023 be given first 3 readings.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. I have a second. Councillor Kemp. Discussion. Councillor Parslow.
So this is the right address? That's an in joke, sorry. Okay. This begs a question. It prompted a question. This is not directly related, but it's the same area. Is there any sign of progress with the building of the hangar that we sold quite close to this property?
You, Kevin?
Yep. So through your worship, yes, we just are finalizing the land sale on that other purchaser, actually just as of today. So we had to wait on a couple of other items, and so that appears to have been cleared off. So things should be moving forward.
Thank you. Any other discussion? No? All right, I'll call this motion to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. Next, 9.3, we have report number 23-161 from the city planner regarding zoning amendment 23-06, bylaw number 4573, 2023 for consideration of first and second readings. Councillor Kemp.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move the recommendation, the report number 23-161 from the city planner regarding zoning amendment 23-06, bylaw number 4573, 2023 be received. Further, that the zoning amendment 23-06, bylaw number 4573, 2023 be given first and second readings.
Thank you, Councillor Kemp. Do I have a second? Councillor Apollonio, any discussion? Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you. With this amendment, it was brought up to me during the summer our minor baseball association had asked for a small metal storage container to be placed near the ball fields in Kin Park for storing of their equipment. Does this amendment give them the right to have that over there as well, or is this specifically for the Curling Association?
So through your worship, I'm just gonna, I think Devin is quickly checking the zoning on the ball fields, and just to see if that falls within the zoning that we've looked to amend here. So if you just give us 2 seconds, we'll do that. While he's looking, I wanted to speak a little bit about why we're doing this. And I mean, it is in the body of the report, but I think it's important just, unfortunately, fortunately, however you want to look at it, metal storage containers are an economical means of storage. And hence why we've, we and others have utilized them. Ideally, we would have on the property of, the arenas, curling rink, those areas, we'd have some form of permanent structures. It just comes down to the prioritization of capital funds. And the reason we're going through this is because we had the containers that are at the curling rink in a temporary nature, but that has since expired, and we needed to either go through some form of a renewal or a change. And so we ultimately decided that we would bring this proposal forward as we control these zones. We have full control over them as far as their city-owned properties. So that gave us some comfort, but with an eye to the future that we do need to prioritize some permanent storage at various facilities. So Devin's saying it would be within that. No, sorry. Oh, you go ahead then.
Go ahead, Devin.
Hi there, sorry, through your worship. The soccer fields and the ball diamonds are a P1 zone, they're a park zone. This doesn't include the park zones because all of our parks are P1 zone, which would then open up to CCANs in every park in town. When we do not want to do that. They could still, if we were looking at that, the mechanism would still be a temporary use plan, temporary use permit, if that's something you want to do.
So we could reach out to them and say, hey, for your desires, I don't know if council would support it or not, but for proper storage of their equipment and save them having to do the exchange and through different clubs and associations, that they'd be able to do a temporary use there.
Yeah, through your worship, I think temporary use permit would be the proper process for that for them.
Okay,
Thanks,
thank you.
Devin. Thanks, Councillor Tom. Councillor Parslow snuck in there again.
You just snuck in there. I just appreciate how the General Manager of Development Services is controlling our CAO's decision making.
Thank you. I have just one question through to you, Kevin. Obviously, like, we control those zones and they're part of our facilities. Is there anything in there, not worried about today, but down the road, like on the quantity and like the design of these CCANs that are going to be put in? I know there's thousands of different ones with, all different levels of shape that they're in. So being on city property, I know that we would look after and make sure we get the proper ones, but my fear is that you see these start popping up all over, and then you got ones that are 40 years old and the paint's peeling off them and they're rusted, and then you have some that look nice and presentable. So is that something that we need to worry about or put in here for, for the future?
So through your worship, I don't believe we've got to that level of detail in the bylaw, but again, I think, we hear what you're saying, and we agree. We don't want a proliferation of metal storage containers, number one. So we need to make sure we're strategic about it. And if we feel that we're starting to run out of space or we need more, I think that's really the impetus when we say, okay, you know what, it is a priority for permanent storage. So we need to recognize that internally and bring that forward. And again, on the ones we do put there, let's just make sure that we're that at least they're new and properly painted and whatnot, and don't look like they came out of a rail yard.
Yeah, well, I've seen in some areas and communities where, the local arts have been involved in it, where they've painted them and, could be something maybe to look at, like especially the city-owned ones, that maybe there could be a theme. I've seen in other communities with sea cans, but like with fire hydrants and different things where, they got a nice community touch to them. So maybe just something to
something
think
to
about.
explore for sure.
Yeah. Councillor Parslow.
Sea cans on private property, I don't think they're permissible. Am I right?
So through your worship, they're permitted in particular zones, commercial, industrial, and then there are regulations of how many are permitted.
Right. Residential areas, no.
Not permitted.
So presumably, given that I believe we still are in a reactive mode to these things, there has to be some complaint by neighbours before
That's correct.
the city would remove one?
Yeah, and I should qualify that statement that they are allowed in residential, or we permit them in residential zones if individuals are, say, moving and they have one there for a short period of time and they're loading and it's going, or if they're going through a major renovation, maybe they had a flood or something, again, we permit that.
Sure.
But it's just some form of permanent storage, no. And yes, it is on more of a response
To a
from
complaint?
Bylaw. Yeah.
Because they do exist, as you know.
Well, I appreciate this one too, coming forward, because the economics of building a facility that we need to store this stuff, this is definitely a lot more, efficient in that way. So thank you. All right, if there's no more discussion, I will call this motion to vote. Vote is closed. And it's carried. All right, I'm just going to take a 5-minute break and we'll come back in around 11. So
how long
2023 back to order. Next order of business was 10 mayor's business, 10.1 mayor's update. So I have a few here, so I'll try and go through them. First, School District 59 meeting. I had a meeting with Christy and Crystal. Crystal's on the board. Christy is the superintendent for the school district. Met with both of them and Kevin, actually. It was just really an initial meeting and just to build that relationship with School District 59. Let them know that, our door's open to learn what they're working on. We want to be educated on that so we can help support them, but also just to build our relationship. And we both have, very similar visions about the community and growing. So it was really just initially about just that first meeting and really just share with, there was no agenda. It was just about just that relationship. So it was really good. I felt really good. Kevin did. And it was a nice meeting. So then the next I had a principals meeting. So I've had a lot of youth focus over this first year of being here. So I wanted to, meet with the principals, just saying really that the door is open for the city. We want to work with the principals in each school on how we can help and inspire youth in our community. One, to care about our city, to teach them about municipal politics as we can, or, just help them in, life and really be part of that. So I've been asking for a little while, and they allowed me to come speak. They meet, I think it's monthly, all the principals from all of School District 59, so from all around the region we're in. And so I got to go in there and spend a half an hour with them just discussing, the vision, my vision a bit with youth, councils, what our, plans are. Talked a little bit about Youth of the Month. This is something that I've been meeting with a couple other groups in the community about initiating and starting, but a Youth of the Month where we can recognize a youth member in our, city that goes above and beyond the call of duty. So whether it's like holding a door for somebody, or it's, being kind to somebody, or going out of their way to, to help a homeless person, or, to help somebody that's being bullied, or to do something, but something where there's a bit of a nomination process where that person can come up and then they can be recognized by myself and go out there and meet that
that youth and child, and really just try to promote that within our youth in the community. So it was a part of that. We're probably going to roll something out fairly soon. It's a couple organizations. I'll probably touch on it next time because I've been meeting with them this Thursday. But a couple organizations in the community that are going to do it, and the city's part or my part will be that I will personally recognize that youth. But we wanted to do it outside of the city, so it's just got some legs to stand on and to grow after, in 3 years. It's something that can maybe, become something on its own and continue to grow and just build that in youth. So that was a big part of that meeting as well. So it was just good. Another huge opportunity to just build those relationships. It was a little eerie going into that meeting. I've sat in front of the principal's office in my time when I was younger. So I was sitting in the room before going in, and not one principal, but there was like 30 principals in there. So I was a little nervous walking in there, but it was all good. So. And then I think it was last Friday, I was invited to the Rotary Club, the Friday morning club, just to give a bit of an update on the city. So once again, amazing. There's so many amazing organizations in our community, but Rotary Club does so much to better our city and the whole area. So it was nice just to go on there, just kind of gave an update on what we've been working on through the first year. Talked a little bit about our strategic plans, and, just was there for, an hour really just discussing and answering questions and some good dialogue. So it was great. Hospital tour. Dave and Ryan from Graham Construction offered to give Kevin and myself a tour of the project. So another thing, you drive by there and it looks like there's some things going on. There's some big dirt piles, a crane up. But once we actually got in there and to see what was going on, it was impressive how much work has been done in such a short period of time. And, concrete, the team, I don't know how many they have working there right now, but there was probably, I would say 40 or 50 there the day we were down there, and it's impressive. There is a lot going on, and to just understand where it was at and where it was going. So I just wanted to thank them for taking the time. And it was impressive. Those cranes are big, especially when you're standing underneath them. So it was really neat to see, and just wanted to thank Graham Construction for taking the time to show us around. So. Next, I had a Zoom call with Northern, I shouldn't say I did, Mayor and Council had the opportunity to have a Zoom call with Northern Health Injury Prevention. Myself and Councillor McDonald attended, and there was a couple things. So what this is a group that look at health injury prevention in Northern Health on areas where they can improve and try and be proactive on some. So one of their big things is slip prevention. It's one of their, the most common cause of hospital visits is slip prevention. So there's just lots of ideas around that. There's some grants that they have, and so they're just kind of doing a study, and then they present, to the government and to Northern Health on areas they're working on. But one that, really touched my heart and Councillor McDonald's, I know was one of their main things is youth suicide, and it just blew me away that was in the top 3 things in our, in our region. So it just shows the importance that, we reach out to youth and we listen to them. We talked earlier this morning about the National Child Day. Like it's so much more important than saying it. It's about reaching out to youth and letting them know that, there is things available for them and to help them. And in individuals, we have an amazing community with amazing people, and we're all here for our youth. So I don't know, it kind of hit home with me, and it was sad to hear that actually that is actually in the top 3 in northern BC. So I just wanted to bring that up, and Next, Legend Fall Classic Kickboxing Tournament. This was held last Saturday, I believe, or the Saturday before. I was invited to attend. I was unable to go because I had other commitments, but I just wanted to give a shout out to them because I did talk to some residents that were there and said it was unbelievable. It was held at Central. They had over 200 attendees from across the region, from all over the region in attendance. It was an all-day thing at Central. The youth... it's big, right? I didn't realize it was that big, but
I know a couple of the youth that were in it, and they were extremely passionate about it, and it's just so cool to see that they have a love for something. And then, like always, a group of parents or individuals organize and lead these events, which really are just about giving kids, some more hope and something else to do. So I just wanted to thank their organization committee and all the youth that participated in it. So it's a little sad I couldn't attend, but I just couldn't sneak away for it. So next I had another seniors roundtable. I believe that was last week. I'm looking at Melissa because she was there as well, but reminds me of when it was. But just another great roundtable. There was a few seniors that came in, and we just had some really great dialogue around areas in the community, and I found it was a great way for myself to communicate to them as well what we're working on in the city, and just bring them up to speed on things. And it's not all senior related, it's just kind of overall view, but just really some open dialogue to answer questions, and just have just an hour and a half communicating back and forth. And I've been doing these roundtables since June, and I'm thinking they'll continue. I hope they do, because I don't know if everybody else that attends them gets things out of them, but I do. I know, like, the education piece that I get from them is huge, and it's so beneficial for myself. And there's been so many things that I said, like at the seniors one that I had, was dealing with that hospital meeting, that Northern Health Injury Prevention afterwards. So it's just, they're all kind of tied in. So it was just nice to have them. So I hope they continue and they keep coming in. So I feel like they feel like there's value, and so do I, for sure. So Kids Cafe community leaders. So this was last Monday. I think it was the second week they started it, but Kids Cafe has partnered with the ARC. So they're doing it out of the ARC every Monday from 3 till 5 or 3 till 5:30. So last week they invited me up to come up and have some fun with the kids. Another just amazing thing, and just a heartwarming thing to be in there with probably 30 youth in our community that are just there to have fun. There was like arts and craft, there was games, there was puzzle building, there was, some kids playing ping pong, there was ball hockey, there was a couple other games. Kara organizes it, and she's just amazing. I cannot say enough about what she does, and from her heart for youth to better youth. But she's got all these other games that I don't know if she creates them, but there was these different games that I didn't know about, but the kids were loving them, and I got to learn and play with the kids. And the youth challenged me to a couple things, so I had to get wrapped in toilet paper and hop down a gym and back and race. I think there was 5 or 6 other kids. I came in second, I think, maybe third place. 4th, Melissa's telling me. I thought I did better than that. And then I had, that'll humble me real quick. And then they also challenged me to digging worms out of a bowl of whipped cream with no hands with my face. So that one I tied for first. I know that. But it was just, it was amazing and fun. And the funny part is I thought it was Kara's children who came up with these games. And no, it was Kara. She was like, nope, my children had no part of it. So I was like, thank you. But no, it was just fun. And like I said, it's every Monday. I think they're doing it throughout the winter from, was it 3 till 5, Melissa? Yeah, 3 till 5 o'clock at the ARC. So if anybody has children, it's open anyway. There is a small fee because I got to pay for stuff, but just an amazing venue. The other amazing part of it is the leaders that are up there. They have 12 youth leaders, so it's not all adults. The leaders that are leading the children and the youth are actually youth. So it was pretty neat to get to know them and play with them and have fun. So. Big Brothers, Big Sisters, I had a meeting with them. We put out, council, we put out a resolution to reach out to the community to see if there was some interest in Big Brothers and Big Sisters. So our communications department, Melissa, did that. And there was some communications back from a couple in our community, Angela and Kira, from
Peace Haven. So so I had a meeting with them and Big Brothers just about moving forward if there was a way to bring Big Brothers and Big Sisters to our community and how that may look. So we had an initial meeting. We do have another one coming up, but just about, not really about the city helping bring it, but just how I can personally, if there's a way. So yeah, so I just wanted to bring everybody up to speed on that. Pembina Pipelines meeting. We had a meeting with Courtney and her team last week via Zoom. There was a few councillors on that as well. So, it was great just to be brought up to speed. I see Pembina around and, know a lot of individuals in the community that work for them, but it was just nice to be brought up to speed on what they're doing and their future problems. I know they have a meeting. They got a projected pipeline or future project. I think it was Taylor to Ground Birch connector it's called, or don't quote me on the name of it, but they do have on a couple dates in November coming up. They have, some meetings, one in Groundbirch. Where is it? One Taylor, one in Taylor, and one in Bonanza. So I just wanted to thank them as well for their time and to bring us up to speed. I also had a meeting with Murphy Oilfield with Rob Nelson. Just a little bit just up to speed on what they're doing. Talked a little bit about, our plans for youth and moving forward and some of the youth sponsorship. So yeah, just had a great meeting with Rob. Another company that does one employs a lot in our area, but also does a lot for our community and a lot of behind the scenes things Murphy does too. It's not, they just, quietly go about doing their things and supporting stuff in the community. And then I had a meeting with Ovintov, Adam and Jason. Jason, I guess would be Adam's boss, flew up from Calgary. I met with them and just, thank them as well for all they do in our community. They do, a lot as well, and just kind of talked a bit about their future and their plans. So that was really good. The one thing I did just want to touch on with Ovintov is earlier today we had the letter from KPAC from Johanna about the sponsorship of the day. So Adam from Ovintov actually seen that and reached out and said that they were willing to sponsor the day. So I just wanted to give them a shout out for that. We know that day might not go forward, but there was some talk afterwards about maybe some swimming passes and stuff going out to the youth that the KPAC is doing. So I just wanted to give a bit of a shout out to Ovintov that they reached out about sponsoring that. So BC Hydro, I did share on this last time, the market sounding Site C accommodations meeting. So I touched on it last time as I sat through the consultation with BC Hydro on the future plans of the Site C accommodation facility. So I did have another meeting with them, Kevin and myself did for the city of Dawson Creek. So same thing, we said, we're interested in learning more about what those facilities are and what the potential they could be used in our community. So their goal is they then give a report back to BC Hydro on any communities and organizations that are interested, which they will let them know that the city of Dawson Creek is. And then when they get to that next step, they'll be in contact with us, and then we can have more of a deeper discussion about a lot of questions we have around those facilities that they might not have yet and where we see they might work in our community and what that looks like. So yeah, we had that. I had a meeting with, take a breathe here for a second. We had a meeting with Staff Sergeant Hughes. This was a couple weeks ago, just a bit of an update on how things are. He's also, will be in later today. There's a report on here. So one thing, we've had some dialogue around reaching out about maybe what it looks like to get some extra support for the RCMP and if that means adding officers. So Kevin, myself, we're kind of going down that road to explore what that looks like and what that would mean to the city. We've talked about like adding bike patrol and a lot of other things and, in today's world and the numbers that they deal with, we want to just go down that avenue. So I know Kevin has had some dialogue with that as well, but it's just something I wanted to bring everybody up to speed on, that we are going down that trail. And as we get more information, or Kevin does, and something will be brought to council. So Next, the Dawson Creek Mere, kind of a bit of a shock to the whole region and community, just that we won't be having a paper anymore. For 90 years, we've had, a paper in our community, and a lot of people rely on that. And, I understand the difficulties in today's world with the digital world that, it's just the reality of where things are going. But, it doesn't mean that there's, wasn't, a great avenue for communicating to our residents. And, I know I'm definitely going to miss it. I read through it weekly when it came out. So I just wanted to thank them through, for all their years. And, definitely a sad day. And then Councillor McDonald did touch earlier about the Chamber of Commerce, and Rob have, started rolling out a daily newsletter. So it was nice to see that it's picked up. And I did see Rob, that was with the Mirror, announced on Friday that he is going to keep running with the daily thing. So those that don't know, I don't know much more about it besides I've seen it come through the Chamber of Commerce. But as I learn more, I'll share that. I did have a couple other things that I didn't have on my list, so that I was going to sneak in. One, I just wanted to touch on the U18 national hockey event that we have coming, which is starting actually this Saturday. We have our first exhibition game. So I just wanted to give a huge shout out to the volunteer committee that's organizing that, but to our city staff, to the Eventive staff, to Hockey Canada, to everybody, but also to our region. The amount of support that I've heard from, all the areas, the First Nations, our neighboring municipalities that are supporting this, by all different means. On Saturday, there's going to be an exhibition game held in Chetwynd, co-sponsored by the city or the district of Chetwynd, Saulteaux First Nations and West Moberly First Nations. As well, Tumbler Ridge has sponsored a day as well, and the Team BC team is going out to Tumbler Ridge Saturday during the day to hang out in their community and do a practice. So just amazing. And the really neat part about that is that one of the athletes on the U18 Team BC team is actually from Tumbler Ridge. So a very touching story. There's also been, following just on the social media, there's been some other girls and parents speaking to individuals. And I know that there's one on Team Alberta as well, a local resident that's Dave and Bree Hamilton's daughter is also on Team Alberta. So just an exciting time for, obviously for those two youth, but just for our community and our region and the amount of people this is going to bring to our town. And just exciting. It starts on this Saturday, so we're excited about it. Another thing too is I had another meeting last week with regarding the community awards. So Community Futures has taken on the community awards. So you're going to start to see some dialogue coming out this week. But they got a nomination package that's going out to nominate for the 6 awards, which will be, I think it's released now, but it'll officially be released on November 1st. And with the awards, the date being set in February, but the venue's still on hold a little bit, so that will roll out more and more. So very excited about it. They've already got all the sponsors for the main awards, which was really easy, but there's a lot of excitement around it already. So the plan is November 1st, the nominations will open for those 6 events, or 6 awards. The nominees will come in, and then they have a protocol for when that will close, and then they determine in a committee that will determine where the awards go. So just wanted to touch on that, and as we get more information, we'll share that as well. The other 2 is just Halloween's coming up tomorrow, so just wanted to give a shout out to our community. I don't want to name everybody that's doing all the events tomorrow because I don't want to miss anybody, but there's so many, and I'm seeing it. That is what community is about, is all these different organizations, businesses in our community going above and beyond to give something for youth to do in a venue and an event, to just give some excitement to youth. So I just wanted to give a shout out to all of those organizations for their commitment to this. And all of those things, like we all know, take time. So to see all of them committing to do this. There's some that are, have been around for years that have been doing, and there's lots of new ones coming. So it's just exciting. So that is tomorrow, and be safe when you're out there. So remember that there's going to be lots of kids running around. So and some adults, I'm sure. So. But yeah, that was all I had for mayor's updates. I don't know if there's any questions to me. No? All right. Next order of business is 11 Chief Administrative Officer operational updates. Kevin, over to you.
Yeah, so through your worship, I just provided a memo on the Dawson Creek Golf Course, just on their water requests. So just a quick update on that for you. And other than that, I think U18 was the other one. You've touched on that. So that's all.
Thank you. Councillor Parzo.
Yeah, I'd just like to talk about the note around water for the golf course. I think we do need to be expecting them to do more. Right now, all I see is a potential for a crisis meeting. They got inadequate water from the snow of the winter, and then they'll be scrambling, looking for water. And right now, the status is that would seem to give that we are open to the likelihood, to the idea of potable water being used for irrigation, which is something that is very costly and is not sustainable. What I would have thought would be is that we would expect them, in cooperation with the city, to apply for a permit, if one is necessary, for irrigation purposes, using water from the Dawson Creek at the spring runoff. We know that it takes time to get permits to do that, and that we should be suggesting very strongly that potable water is not an option, and two, that we would encourage and would work with them for the use of the spring runoff to recharge their water storage.
So through your worship, I was just, those were conversations that I did have with Mr. Walsh regarding spring runoff. And also, he provided some clarity on that. They didn't really need the 20,000 cubic meters this fall. The primary thing was some tree planting, which, as noted in the memo, didn't occur because of weather and a few other things. One thing that we are aware of now is that the reclaim can be used for irrigating. Could be, for watering those trees. So should spring come and they need it specifically for the trees, that would be an option for them to use the reclaim. Need to be trucked, but watering trees is much smaller volume. But I will follow up to my original conversation on the permitting, option as well with Mr. Walsh and just see if they're going to explore that throughout the winter.
All right, thanks, Kevin. Councillor Parzo, do you have something to add to that?
Well, it's good to hear an affirmation of what I thought was possible with the use of that potable water. Again, I may be operating under the wrong impression here, but the impression I had certainly involved water, but the fact is that their storage ponds are depleted and need to be recharged, has also been an issue. So I'm a little confused. What is it? Is the recharging of their ponds an issue, or is it not?
So through your worship, discussions with Mr. Walsh, I think they're concerned, but I think that traditionally that they have seen in spring runoff that they've been able to replenish primarily their ponds. They get a lot of water laying all over the course, and I think that they take those opportunities to try and direct some of that water that's laying on their course into their ponds. So that, they're hopeful that happens again this winter and next spring. So, like I said, I think they feel that that's an opportunity. And then, like I said, the reclaim is an option for them for watering the trees specifically. But their challenges are much like ours. And when we saw our source becoming a little more vulnerable to the changes in the climate, we built additional storage, lots of it. And maybe that's what they're going to have to explore into the future, is have more storage to try and get them through these drier spells.
Thank you. I also, just to touch on that a little bit too, had lots of conversations with Mr. Walsh, and he's open, like they're trying to be proactive and look in the future. So he's definitely open to any ideas and areas that, we think he might have. And I'm sure he'd be into having a conversation with any one of us around that. So, yeah. Or did you have something to add, Councillor Parslow?
Yeah, nothing changes my concerns.
Okay.
Need to be taken action now over those permits.
Okay, thank you. Anything else, Kevin, or no? I wanted to just touch a little bit. We've been sitting over here for a year. It's probably close to the date, but I just wanted to give a thank you to yourself and to the team at the city. I know the first year, has been a lot of learning on both sides and a lot of challenges that you faced, but I get to deal with being in the office, residents that reach out about certain things, and I get to go to Kevin and to the team at the city, and I just wanted to give a thank you on how professional everybody is at the city and how prompt they are to respond. And not just because it's me, but it's because it's, residents that are reaching out from our community. And there was another one on the weekend, where somebody had some issues going on, and one of the leaders from the community or from the city dealt with them, and they messaged me afterwards and just wanted to thank how professional and how well it was handled with. And I can't speak from before I sat here, but I know now that I'm here and I've sat here for a year that I see it. And I just wanted to, thank yourself, Kevin, for your commitment to our city and to the people in our city. But it's clearly showing your leadership style throughout our city and, to the team here. But I just wanted to thank you, but I also wanted to thank the whole team at the city, from everybody for the job they're doing and, and how well they're doing. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Appreciate it, and it really goes to the team. They're the ones that deliver on that every day. So, without them, I couldn't do it. So, thank you. It's great to hear. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, next 12 diary. Anything in the diary? No. Oh, sorry. What was that, Tab? Oh, there's 11.1. Oh, okay. Would somebody like to? Councillor Kemp.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll read the proposed motion that staff be authorized to meet with the Dawson Creek Golf Course in spring 2024 to discuss whether they still require 20,000 meters cubed city water to replenish their primary pond.
I have a second. Thanks, Councillor Kemp. I have a second. Councillor Apollonio. Any discussion? No, I will call this motion. Oh.
Yeah, I was just before.
Councillor Parslow. Councillor McDonald.
Sorry, I would just speak to what Councillor Parslow was talking about too, that maybe we need to be a little bit more proactive on that discussion, and we have the discussion now. Councillor Parslow's point was possibly pumping water out of the actual Dawson Creek during spring runoff for replenishing those, being preemptive about not having enough standing water on the course. And we don't want to be stuck trying to get permits that we all know how long permits take, right? In the spring when they need the water now, there is a very short window of runoff through that creek that would be very optimal for replenishing those ponds. So I think just maybe an amendment to that motion that we have those conversations now and not wait till the spring.
Do we need an amendment? I know we've already had those conversations. Kevin, do you feel you need that amended on there?
So through your worship, I don't, but I think what I'm hearing is council would feel more comfortable with a formal motion, so I'm fine with that. I think if we have it, then it's clear.
Okay. So we'll make that as an amendment. Okay. All right, so I will call that to vote, the amendment. Show of hands, those in favor? Opposed? Okay.
Through your worship, I have Councillor McDonald as making the amendment. Who was the seconder?
I would have said.
Councillor Parslow. I was just testing him. I wanted to see.
Well, of course.
Okay, Councillor Parslow will second that. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. All right, so the motion as amended then. Is there any discussion on this? No, I will call the motion as amended to vote. And show of hands. Okay, all in favor? Oh, actually I called. You can digitally vote.
Stretching a lot today.
Sure is, yeah.
Is everybody in? Vote is closed. It's carried.
I feel like the staff sergeant isn't going to get our best.
All right, next 12 diary. Anything in the diary? No, nothing in the diary. 13 consent calendar. Motion to accept the consent calendar.
No.
Oh. Councillor Barlow?
No, go ahead. I need to comment on this letter, though, because it's a lot of money to the city.
So we have a motion to accept it, and then we can, if anything needs to be lifted. Okay. We'd like to, so Councillor Parslow? Make a motion.
I would like to move that the city send a letter to the minister responsible for police. Is it Farnworth? I forgot his name.
Minister Farnworth.
Minister Farnworth, asking for a explanation of the potential cost to the city of Dawson Creek should the administrative costs for RCMP police in BC be downloaded on municipal governments.
Do I have a second? Councillor McDonald.
Just speaking to it, we're told in the last correspondence from the Mayor of Surrey that their estimations is that 7% of the municipal governments should expect a 7% increase to cover the loss of the revenue from Surrey for the administration of policing in this province. 7% in round dollars, right, is in excess of $300,000 cost to this city. And I don't think we should just sit here and read this letter and say, oh, poor old Surrey. Well, if she is correct in her assertions, that means a major impact on the police budgets of every municipality that has RCMP services. And it's my estimate, it would be about 7% would be about at least 300,000 cost to us. I may be wrong in my math, but Michelle will jump in with glee to correct me if I'm wrong.
Thanks, Councillor Parslow. Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Worship. Just so to clarify my colleague's point is the reduction in the scales of economy that results from Surrey, which is, I think, the biggest municipality in the province, being removed from RCMP, is that the overall administrative cost at a provincial level will increase by 7% potentially for all other municipalities that currently run RCMP.
That's correct.
Correct? Okay, thank you. I can support that. I think not that, I mean, I don't have the knowledge that Councillor Parslow has around the details around the RCMP, but I do know that, this is a significant cost. And we, I think, as British Columbians, and insofar as this impacts municipal taxes, we need to have a clear-eyed understanding of what this looks like prior to a final decision being made. If it were just between the province and Surrey, I'd be happy to let them hash it out. But as my colleague points out, and as the Mayor of Surrey is indicating, there could be some knock-along impacts to our budget that we need to get a handle on. So.
Thanks, Councillor. Yeah, I agree. It would be nice to know if there was a cost to us, what it'll be. So thank you. All right. Any other discussion?
Sorry, just procedurally, did we lift this from the consent calendar, or do we need to do that prior to the motion? Okay. Sorry.
From what I understand from the unanimous discussion that just took place, Councillor Parslow and Councillor McDonald lifted the item and further made a motion on the matter.
Thank you for that clarification.
All right. I will call this motion to vote. Everybody's clear on the motion? Yeah. Okay. Vote is closed, and it's carried. All right, next, so I don't need to do anything else for consent calendar. Next, 2023 strategic priorities chart. Kevin, did you have anything to?
No updates on that.
Oh, okay. I did want to have a little discussion. I don't know if now is the right time, but I know we have in November, we have a meeting going forward just to kind of go through our strategic priorities and plans and set some goals up and stuff. And I know we've had some dialogue, but I think we need to give staff a little bit more clarification on what we intend at that meeting. Like I know the intention of that meeting is to go through things on our strategic priorities and lay out what's possibly can be done this year or next year and 4 years. But are we expecting Kevin to facilitate this? Or I know Councillor Parslow has had some dialogue with Kevin and myself, and we have another meeting, but I think we need to give some direction if we need to, have Kevin look after getting somebody to facilitate it. If, not speaking for Councillor Parslow, but if he was thinking of facilitating it, then that needs to be discussed as a whole, and we need, Kevin needs some direction from us. So I just kind of wanted to have a little bit of dialogue around this to give Kevin some clear understanding. So Councillor Parslow?
Sure. Later this week, I am, again, in the spirit of no surprises and, making sure everyone's comfortable. I asked Kevin, I said to Kevin that I felt that I should work through with him and yourself what I am actually hoping we would achieve, choosing a strategic direction, which I think is the capital planning, isn't it? The capital asset planning. So that he and you, right, would know what I am striving to encourage council to do. What I plan on doing is, Kevin's chosen this goal. This is a goal that I believe is entirely administrative for the administrative staff. I suggested to Kevin that if he had other staff people that he thought should come, to come. And what we would do is they'd say, okay, we've got this strategic direction. What would be some indicators of success, that we've achieved it?
Sorry, can I just intervene a little bit? I think council's given direction that we want to do this. It's more about what does Kevin need for direction? Like, because we need somebody to be in that room, like to stand up there and go through each thing individually. Is it something that, because I think the gist of it we all agree with and understand. That's why we move forward.
Thanks for that interjection. Yeah.
So just kind of wondering like what, so they know like how to plan for it. Because if we just all show up in a room and there's nobody.
I see. I'm quite willing to do that if the council wants me to, but only if the council wants me to do.
Well, and that's why I kind of wanted to have this discussion is because I didn't want, that or we,
Yeah.
Okay,
No,
sorry, I
thank
didn't
you.
mean to like interrupt because we've already had that discussion about why we're doing
fine.
this. Yeah.
Otherwise, but then Kevin may feel on after Thursday that he can do that.
Yeah. Okay.
You know what I mean? I'm just there to supporting Kevin and wanting to make sure Kevin's comfortable with the process, right?
Yeah, no, and appreciate you bringing this forward.
I'm willing to help any way. I do this all the time, all over the place. But just hoping that we all have a common understanding of what we're after.
Yeah.
And how we would recognize that we've succeeded it, and what are we going to do to get there?
Yeah. No, I agree, and I appreciate you bringing it forward, and your willingness to do all that. So thank you. Councillor McDonald.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. So should we make a motion or move that Kevin work with Councillor Parslow and maybe one other to build an agenda and an actual choose the facilitator then as well, or?
Well, I think we got the facility part chosen. It's just more like, I don't know if we need a motion or Kevin just needs some direction knowing which way to go. But if we're going to leave it in Kevin's hands to orchestrate, then he knows that. And then he can then discuss with Councillor Parslow or myself or whoever. And then he can be like, you know what, I think Sally is the right person to do it, or, just give that direction. So I guess maybe I'll ask Kevin the question, what you feel you need.
So through your worship, I think, as Councillor Parslow indicated, we'll have our meeting later this week. I think the three of us can discuss. I will gauge my level of comfort of whether it's something that I want to do or if it's somebody on my staff that I could maybe have help facilitate. We'll determine those things. I just wanted to make sure, I think it's important the discussion here is just so council's on board. No surprises. They understand that that it may be staff leading the facilitation, or maybe we'll make a decision to have Councillor Parslow. As long as everybody's comfortable, then we know going into our meeting later this week. So.
Okay, thank you. So I guess that's it. So I can speak, on my behalf. I'm comfortable with Kevin making that decision. I think it's, been very fair. So I don't know if everybody else. Okay.
I'm just here to help.
You do such a fine job of it. Thank you, Councillor Parslow. All right, well, I'll move on to the next item on our agenda is 15 media question period. So there's no media here. Next, 16 Committee of the Whole report, 16.1. We have a report from Staff Sergeant Rob Hughes. Good morning, Staff Sergeant. And welcome.
It's great. I'm good to go.
There you go. It's all yours.
Good morning.
Morning.
Thank you to the board, Mayor and Council for having me. It's been a couple of months. I think probably 4 months because we didn't do summer and then I was away last month. So thank you for having me. We'll go through the report here and then I've got a couple of questions and then hopefully some of you have some questions for me.
Okay.
So where are we at? So general calls for service to Dawson Creek RCMP. We're up 3%, 7,021 calls for service, up from 6,952 over the same period last year. Our split remains fairly consistent around that kind of 80-20. It's 18 to 82 right now for the calls for service in the rural areas, rural and surrounding, which includes Poos Kupi. So that's where we want to see that. And everything, all of our crime stats are all trending down except for 2. So for those of you that don't have the report, I'll kind of go through them as quickly as I can here. So theft of vehicles are actually down, which is good. We are coming into theft of vehicle season with people leaving their vehicles running with the colder weather. So probably be talking with local media to get something out about that and keeping your vehicles secure. Whether you're running into the store, it's the morning, jumping out, starting up your vehicle and going back in your house. Comparative to last year, the winter months, a huge spike in theft of vehicles for that reason. But as it stands right now, we're down 28% from last year. Theft from vehicle, again, there was only 3 reported in the month of September, which is really good. Shows us that the general public are keeping their vehicles locked, not leaving things in their vehicle or leaving things less in their vehicle, which is a good sign. So thank you to everybody that is taking ownership for that and reducing that stat. Our break-in enters are down, both residential and business, significantly, 20 in the residentials and 28% over the businesses. Our assaults are up. However, it's only 5%. And I don't want only 5%. We don't want to see it increase at all. Ideally, that number would be 0. But again, as I've spoken before, most of our assaults are in a vulnerable group of individuals, and they're known to each other. Dawson Creek doesn't have a whole lot of stranger assaults. It's almost always people that are known to each other. And I've used the analogy before of we don't have a little old lady walking down the sidewalk at 10 o'clock at night and getting mugged for her purse. I don't want to say never because it'll jinx it, but we don't have that here. And thank goodness. Our sexual assault, sexual interference files, as I've spoken to in the past, these are not simply what everybody, when you say a sex assault file, what everybody thinks the worst. These are every file that have a component to it. So we're getting the teenagers that are sexting, sending pictures back and forth with each other. As soon as that goes to a principal or to a counselor or to MCFD, we get notified and a file gets created. So that encompasses every file with a sexual component to it. And there was a huge big spike in the summertime. And as the stats here show, we're trending back down in the right direction, which is what we want to see. Our drug possession, drug trafficking, again, the stats for that are going to be skewed because of DCRIM coming into effect there January 31st of this year. So giving it over last year is not really a fair comparison. We only had 1 month of real stats. So where we're seeing this number of 18 year to date, that's going to be the over 2.5 grams where we're making a seizure, and that's getting coded as a drug file, or if somebody is charged with possession for the purpose of trafficking, which we are still pursuing, and some of those are before the courts now for this year. So we're still targeting those offenders and plan to keep that trend. Our impaired driving, it's down 4%. The difference from 105 to 110 it's not a significant decrease, but it is a decrease. Motor vehicle collisions again are down. Theft, including shoplifting, 301 to 399. Quite a significant decrease, equating to 25%. I don't really have a reason to explain that. I wish I did. We've got some offenders that have been in jail. Some people have moved. We have some of our property offenders that have active warrants and have moved, the best we can tell, to Alberta to avoid those warrants. So that helps our crime stats a little bit. And our mental health is pretty flat. That's a decrease of 7%, 397 to 410. We're volunteer, our cops, citizens on patrol, and the Rural Crime Watch. I've been going to those meetings myself. Typically, we've had a liaison officer designated. The one liaison officer that we had is in the process of transferring out. So I've elected to go to those meetings myself to get a better pulse on what's going on with those groups and what they need. I think we're making good ground there. The stats here for their patrol hours are a little bit low for September. We're talking with them about recruiting and kind of what we can do to increase their numbers. Them being out helps the community a ton. Just having people see them out and about. I have no doubt that that's contributing to our reduction in crime. The crime rates is having them out and visible. where are we at? Our staffing levels. So our staffing levels, as a whole, we're still around the 85% as a whole detachment. However, of the 20 constables that we have on the road that are the ones responding to our day-to-day calls for service, we are down 3 of those, and in anticipation for next month, we're going to be down 4, and then into January we're going to be down 5. So I did talk to staffing this morning. Again, about this, we've got 2 members that are off injured or sick. Those are called the soft vacancies. There's not really anything that I can do about those. Our 1 corporal position has been filled. His name is Derek Utenbosch. He's coming from Chilliwack, so he's an experienced member. I believe just over 7 years of service. He was here last week on a house hunting trip. He's purchased a house up the hill there somewhere. Very excited to come. I think he's going to be a good fit. So he has got a 90-day implementation date, which puts him here right around Christmas. So I'm not sure what the possession dates on his house purchase were, but it'll depend on that. So right around just before or just after Christmas, we'll have another corporal. And we do like to see new people come into the detachment from outside. It's nice to promote our own people, but it's also nice to have new people come into the detachment. Myself, for example. At least I got 1 laugh. That was good. There we go. We're alive. What else have we got? I did meet with the mayor and the CAO about increasing our membership. I'm not sure if you've had a chance to discuss that, so hopefully I'm not letting the cat out of the bag on that. There's a whole bunch of processes from the RCMP side and the city side and municipal and the federal side, so we're kind of looking at just what that looks like and whose job it is to do what in preparation for stats and numbers and bodies and finances and all that kind of stuff. So very, very early stages, but there's a bunch of work to be done. So I am on that from the RCMP side. It's not going to be anything that's super fast, but I expect to have some numbers here in the next couple of months. So that's very promising. What those final numbers look like, I just don't know yet. So thank you to the mayor and CAO for hearing me on that and potentially moving forward. So one question I have is, or I guess I'll address something else first. Something that came up apparently with Sergeant Petal last Cal meeting was how our crime stats are all decreasing, but our calls for service are still increasing. So touching on that, I guess the 2-part in the question that I have is there crime stats or something that Mayor and Council wants to see on these reports that isn't here, or like would you like an explanation in the report to that? The easy answer, and it is quite an easy answer, is our calls for service for the non-reportables. Like this, we have literally hundreds of different crime reporting stats, and I can't capture them all on a report like this. It just gets overwhelming and it starts to lose its meaning. So one of the things that I can include in this is we call it unspecified assist, and that's when there's not a criminal code offense, but somebody is calling. For example, we get a lot of calls. Somebody's setting up a tent in the alley. So it's after hours for the city. It's on city property, or if it's on private property, it makes a little bit of difference how it gets scored or how the response goes. But if it's not a police issue and we're still called for it and we attend, we have to create a file. So those unspecified assistance files I think they increased 300 or 400 for the year already this year. Now, we like those calls. We want those calls because I believe that it contributes to the overall reduction in crime. Our police cars are men and women out on the road being visible and getting out there, attending, getting out of their cars, going up to a door, knocking on a door, speaking with people. I think it has a good effect on the community. And I think it's not the only contributing factor, but I think it is a major contributing factor to the reduction of overall crime stats for the city. So I want people to call those files in, but they're not necessarily a police file. Yeah. So we create a police file, and that's why the numbers are going up. So I can include unspecified assist in this report if you wish.
Oh, does it take much time for you to add that?
No.
No, okay.
No.
And I'm sure the information would be, if it's not creating you a big job, sure.
And then my other question is there anything else that you would like broken out? Or is there anything that you have a question of that's not getting answered in this report? I know that the first time that I presented at the Cal meeting, I changed a couple little things in here, but the feedback from council was that they wanted it to stay the same as last year, to keep the comparables the same.
Okay.
So just if too much changes, it makes it hard to compare what's going on from last year when the report isn't the same. So I can leave everything here the same, but is there something that Mayor Council wants added?
Okay.
So you can get that information to me after you've had a chance to consult with council.
Yeah.
Or if there's anything that pops into anybody's head now, I can take a note.
Okay. Yeah, I think once you're done, we can open it up if anybody does. But I think the other side of that too, Staff Sergeant, is if you've done this previously at other places and you feel like there's a way to change it, we'd be open to, different things too. So, but yeah, I'll let you.
Yeah, it's mostly what this report is tailored to the needs of yourselves. However you want things broken out, like if you wanted break and enters combined so that it shows just one for just an example, to shorten the report up, or if there's something that, like if you wanted something broken out from the assaults, like we can move with that a little bit.
Yeah. Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I believe that's all I have for today.
Okay. Perfect.
Hopefully there's some questions that I can answer, and
excellent.
We'll go from there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just before I open up to council, I just wanted to send a thank you to yourself and to the team at the RCMP. I know what you guys do day in and day out is not easy, but from this mayor and council and all of our city staff, we definitely appreciate what you do every day and all the members do. And it's not easy. And I just wanted to say thank you, and that we definitely do appreciate each and every member and the whole team at the RCMP for what you guys do for our community. And so thank you.
Thank you so much. I did, there was an event here that happened in town last week, and I did receive a phone call from some of mayor and council, and I very much appreciate that extension of caring. I passed the sentiments on to the detachment, and they very much appreciate it as well. It's, I don't know what to say other than it's very much appreciated. When you take the time out of your personal day to say thank you, it means a lot. So thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, it's meaningful, and you don't need to. Yeah, we just appreciate it. So thanks.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Your Worship. And thank you, Staff Sergeant. I appreciate it. I was the one who posed the question with respect to the stats numbers to Sergeant Peddle, just because I figured it was something like that, but I kind of wanted a confirmation. But for me, it's, I mean, if it could be on the report, that would be very helpful. I think for us, it's important to know, that informs a lot of our decisions with respect to other things and our advocacy to the province, because while we appreciate that you guys are on top of those kind of calls, that might not always, in all circumstances, be the best use of you as a resource. Whereas, when we talk about staffing or resourcing for social workers or medical professionals or other outreach efforts, to find out that, 300 or 400 of those calls are comprised of people who aren't necessarily engaged in criminal activities. I think it's valuable for us to know, because, if we don't know about it and it's falling upon you, or it's landing in the lap of Bylaw, and those maybe aren't the best, that's not your chief priority, or it shouldn't be, right? And our counterparts at the provincial level need to know that. A couple questions. Recently, we've lost our local newspaper, and the one remaining local news organization we do have for the time being, CJDC, due to recent changes in federal regulation and how social media organizations have responded to that, are no longer able to post stories to sites like Facebook, like Instagram. is that, to what extent is that inhibiting your ability to communicate with the public? And just, I do, you know, I'm often frustrated by the extent to which we've become reliant on the comment section of social media, or which the public's knowledge is impacted, or lack of knowledge is impacted by, you know, rumors, innuendo, hearsay on social media. And we find ourselves with increasingly less tools to combat that in trying to communicate with the public. Are you finding that's an ongoing challenge, or?
Yeah, so thank you for the question. It's always, from the inception of social media, it's been a problem. Dawson Creek RCMP doesn't have a dedicated Facebook page, and we do not respond to those things that pop up on social media. There's always speculation, there's always rumor, and sometimes it really blows out of control hard and fast, and sometimes it stays in its lane and information does get disseminated accurately. Since I've arrived here, I've developed a pretty good relationship, I believe, with Grady and Michael Popov. Talking to them regularly. I've talked to them twice already this morning. So we're doing our best to keep that information flowing, and then leaving it up to them how they disseminate their messaging. One of the things with keeping the news pieces off of the social media platform is it does also stop some of that negativity and rumor, because everybody loves to get on their phones and keyboards and be the first to make a comment. And the inaccuracies sometimes are more damaging than anything. So,
Yeah, I was just wondering how this new dynamic is either, you know, impacting your ability to communicate with the public or various stakeholders, because, you know, it's with respect to CJDC, not everybody watches the news or goes to their website, and without that now, you're kind of at a loss until. But no, that was my instance, and I guess with one piece of feedback, and I'm not sure if it necessarily needs to fall on you with respect to the report, when you recommend charges against a person, are you able to indicate in the report whether or not that person would qualify as a chronic offender? Just so we get a handle on what percent of the charges being recommended are against repeat offenders?
Yes, I can look at that.
Okay. If it's not, like I said, it's all of, you know, best use of your time and what you think would be useful. But once again, it's one of those things that kind of informs our discussions and our advocacy at a provincial level.
Okay, so yes, thank you for the question. One of the things, we don't call them chronic offenders, we class them as prolific offenders. So one of the challenges with reporting that style, I can see what I can do with it, but one of the challenges is going to be that a person is designated a prolific, and they may become a prolific outside of that reporting period, and then we're not capturing that. So I can have a look, I can speak with staff at the detachment and see how that's captured and see if there's a better or different way to do that, and add that in. But I do have to do some research on seeing how that's done and if I can do that.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that, and sorry for the homework.
Hey,
Thanks, Councillor Hall. Councillor Parslow, did I not shut your light off, or did you? Oh, sorry. Okay. No. Was there any other questions? I had a couple. I just looking through the numbers, obviously great to see decrease in a lot. But when I look at numbers of like the mental health one being so high, like I know the percentage is coming down, which is nice, but we're still talking like over 400 or around 400 year to date. Is there, I know I've seen, and maybe we've had some discussion on this, but is there a program through Northern Health where they supply like somebody to ride around with the RCMP to help deal with some of this? I don't know if our neighbors have something in place. Is it anything that, is there something that, like, have you looked into that, or do you see it being a?
So thank you, Your Worship, for the question. No, we don't have that. So it's a different, I think they call it CAR 6-7 in the larger communities, and it is a Northern Health or Interior Health or Lower Mainland Health or Fraser Health initiative, and they supply a mental health worker that rides around with a designated mental health member.
Oh, okay.
So first of all, we don't have the don't have the numbers here to support, to dedicate one member per shift to take them away from general response. Typically, that member is dressed in a slightly different uniform to set them apart, and then they get to build a relationship with that clientele, and it's a different relationship than with the general duty policing. So they see the gray uniform, and sometimes they think they're in trouble. They'll see that uniform, and they've built a rapport with that specific one member, or in bigger detachment, like four members. And it has quite a calming effect. And having the mental health worker or nurse with that car, it's a fantastic initiative. It's very costly, and I don't know if the numbers in Dawson Creek would support that. And it would be Northern Health would be the other piece, whether they have the staff to man something like that. So
yeah, okay. Okay, thank you. And then I guess as far as the format change for me, I'm kind of open to anything. I mean, anything that gives us more education, but more so I like how it's broke out here, and I guess knowing when there is struggles or one's high or one's low, like what the RCMP is doing in that area, is just so we can get that out, or if we can support that in a way. But I feel like that works for us now. So, my opinion on it is that, it's good data that I like to read, and gives me information. But if definitely open to different ways, if there's ways you've seen or any of the other counselors, I'm kind of open to learning. So, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Where the purpose of this report is for yourself, your worship, and council. So I can tailor it to whatever your needs are. If it answers more questions, the worst thing that I don't want to create a report that creates more questions than answers. Yeah. So whatever the needs of mayor and council are, I'm more than happy to do whatever it takes to make this the best report that it can be without having it overwhelming.
Yeah.
So,
okay. Thank you, Councillor Sudnick.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just with these stats, because they're fun, but theft of vehicles, to celebrate a 28% decrease in vehicle theft is one thing, but we still have 86 vehicles year to date that are gone. And that's well over $1 million worth of people's property. How many of those are recovered? Is there a stat that we can see on that?
How many are recovered?
Yeah.
I can definitely do that. Add that.
Nice.
The recovery rate is quite high. I'm not going to make a guess.
Sure.
I can tell you I worked 6 years in a dedicated auto theft unit in the Lower Mainland. Worked with Impact. I was Bay Car liaison, Bay Car trainer, and it was in the 90% percentile of recovery throughout the province of BC back 8 or 10 years ago. I don't imagine that that's much different. Our stolen vehicles here in Dawson Creek are usually joyriders. They're stealing them, they're using them for crime, and they're dumping them. With all the cameras and such at fuel stations, it's very rare for them to go and even fuel them up, just because they'll be caught on camera. So they're used. The fuel that's in them is depleted. They're ditched, and another one's stolen. And again, our stats are quite high, and I don't have the exact numbers, but the stats are quite high of the percentage of vehicles that are stolen with either keys left in them in the driveway, or actually just left running. Just people go out, start them up, leave them in the driveway to warm up, walk back into their house. And sometimes, what you expect to be 2 or 3 minutes turns into 20. Anything older than 5 or 6 years old doesn't have the auto shut off, or if you try and do anything with the vehicle when you've left it running, it just shuts off if you have the keys. So putting the key in the ignition and starting it is a huge contributing factor to this 86 and to this 120.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, Councillor Sudnick. Councillor Parslow.
One time that we received some, obviously written in an anonymous way, in other words, you weren't able to identify individuals, some very powerful descriptors of some crimes that had been occurring in the community. And it really illuminated in a much better way, I guess, than a statistic, the impact of crime on people, on businesses, and so on. I don't know how Kevin may know, but I haven't seen that for quite a while. Okay, I don't know if it was in a. I believe it might have been the previous staff sergeant. Maybe it was in a report, but I found that really, really illuminating. Does anybody else have any recollection of that? No? Okay. Maybe I'm reading something somewhere else, but I'm sure that happened. Maybe it was several councils ago. But anyway, one of the issues that I'd just like to update on is cameras. Many people in the business community who are dealing with vandalism and a whole bunch of things wanted to install cameras for surveillance of their properties. And there was a problem with the use of BC hydro poles. And the other thing was that if you could overcome that problem, and you were monitoring your business, how did you relay that to the RCMP? And Sergeant, the gentleman just been referring to, Sergeant Pettit, is it?
Peddle.
Peddle?
Peddle.
Peddle. He is sergeant now, then, eh?
Correct.
Okay, good. He shared how there was some communities where the owners had. There was a program. I know Lethbridge has its own police force, but I think Lethbridge was one example used, where all these cameras, right? The police had access to them, and that was sort of being suggested as being very helpful towards at least solving crimes. I mean, obviously, you don't have staff to be monitoring these pieces of equipment all the time, but it was very helpful in putting certain things together. And that was a community-wide initiative in those examples. And I just thought that might be something to pursue. I don't think it got any traction at a level other than a suggestion at a public meeting when there was a reaction going on to all the crime stuff. And I think that's something that I would appreciate you digging into and seeing what exactly the sergeant was referring to, and whether it was something that might appeal to the business community. So I think that's a fair summary. Does anybody recall that?
Yeah, I recall it. Yeah.
You recall that? Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. So I've got a couple of questions out of that. I'll address the camera thing first. Whatever rules BC Hydro has with both posting things on their poles is going to be up to them to deal, like a business owner to deal with BC Hydro. The expectation of privacy from the general public in the general public, there almost isn't any. You should expect to be filmed now anywhere that you go. If you're in a business, in a bank, in the police station, in City Hall, you should be expected that there's surveillance cameras around. So that's a precedent that's set. I don't think there's any dispute to that. You'll see social media videos all the time of people that are recording other people. We get a lot of calls that somebody was video recording me, and they want the police to go make them stop, and we can't. We have no authority to have somebody stop video recording or taking pictures of somebody in public, because precedent is set that there's no expectation of privacy out in public. So if business owners want to have cameras out on their businesses that point out onto the sidewalks, they're allowed to do that. I believe the camera database, it's not something that the police have access to per se to log in and everybody's on one network. it's my understanding that those communities that have those initiatives are a database of who has the cameras and what the cameras capture, whether they capture from, first second to halfway between first and second, or they capture the whole block, or if they go down the sidewalk and only capture that. So there's a database of the location of the camera and what it captures, who the camera owner is, and what their contact is, and a couple of other little technical pieces of information as anybody that would want to put in the database that manages it. So I don't believe that police can just log into any camera. That changes the privacy issues a little bit.
Yes, my understanding was it was a volunteer thing that these people who had put in cameras, right? They had entered into an agreement that upon request from the police knew where there were cameras and that they could access the information should there be a need by the police.
Okay, I can have a look at that.
Yeah.
It's kind of, we may be saying the same thing, just a little bit different wording. So I can talk to Sergeant Peddle about that. That's my understanding of it. Very easy something to set up in the community if we have the support from the business owners. And I know that we've met with a group of business owners before a few times, and very, very receptive to anything that is geared towards crime reduction. So we can follow up with your worship at another time if that's okay.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, he's just touching on, we had a round table with business owners and Rob and myself, and there was similar discussion, so, yeah.
And then the other question, maybe I didn't understand exactly what you were trying to say with a more descriptive, I don't think I understood what you're trying to say or what you're trying to describe.
Okay, well, statistics, right?
Councillor Parslow.
Statistics are just statistics, right? I mean, they're figures.
Yes.
And painting a picture, right, of some of the incidents that have occurred gives a far better understanding of the nature of crimes in the community. So these were some anecdotally written summaries where the identities were, there's no way you could identify the business, the individuals. It was descriptive, it was very informative of some of the types of crimes, right, that were going on. And I found that far more interesting than figures on paper, right? I mean, I know probably you have staff maintain those figures, but that so often percentage changes mean over the long term, right? They just get with this, either the season they get averaged out, and there's no, and I'm not speaking against not having the statistics, because some people on council or the public may want those things, and you do maintain them as a matter of business anyway. So, but I'm just saying another powerful tool is anecdotal comments around certain crimes, and just a description with no value judgments, just a description of the crime. I found interesting reading. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Parslow. Councillor Earl.
Just to Councillor Parslow's description, there were instances in the last council when I was first elected, and we came in at a time of heightened commercial property crime. And there were a couple instances where I think the staff sergeant of the day gave on some of the more high-profile cases in town, just gave a couple bullet point updates on the ongoing, without, as Councillor Parslow noted, without compromising the integrity of the investigation or violating people's privacy. There were a couple high-profile incidents or stuff like that where it was just kind of an update for council who were, to keep us in the loop. So I think that's what he's referring to, unless I'm mistaken.
I think you're touching it, like one of the big...
There's a lineup of people.
But yeah, just to reiterate, council, I do recall that, and it had to do with kind of more high-profile, dramatic instances. If there was a chase that occurred, I mean, recently, certainly with respect to the officer who hit the ditch and had to get some medical attention, things like that. Just, I think, to advise council, so we were all getting the same information. As you mentioned, the cross-chatter with social media sometimes overwhelms. But, yeah, I think that's in part what he was referring to.
Thank you. Councillor Apollonio.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Staff Sergeant, for the amazing report. Just a few questions. I recently received some information, though I think Kevin already helped me about this. What's the process of recovery? For example, if you found something like vehicles or motorized vehicles being recovered on your site, how people will know that? How can they have them, or do you normally call them, or does the public will be the one to call you back, or maybe the city hall?
So I believe the question is, if we recover a stolen vehicle, how does the owner of the person of the vehicle get notified?
Yeah, notified, or maybe how could they get the vehicle back, or you normally call the owners. Is that right? Or
yes, we do call the owners. We have so in our police reporting, our computer system is called Prime, and we've got different mandatory pages. And one of those mandatory details pages, when we recover a stolen vehicle, is the date, time, contact person, contact phone number that we notified the registered owner. And our members are required to do that. And even if we recover a stolen vehicle, say stolen in Grand Prairie, and it's recovered here, the recovering agency is responsible for notifying that owner. And it comes down, A, to respect to the owner, and B, is finances. So if we recover a vehicle on a Monday and don't notify that owner for 2 weeks, that vehicle is accruing storage fees at the tow yard. So we are responsible for those tow fees and those storage fees if we haven't notified the owner. So the other piece to that is if it's a ICBC-owned vehicle. So ICBC typically pays out a vehicle that's been stolen after the 30-day mark. So if we recover a vehicle in the 45, 50, 60, 90-day mark, our system shows us that vehicle has been transferred back to ICBC as the registered owner, and then we notify ICBC of the recovery. ICBC will then in turn notify the victim, in case there's any belongings or anything in there. And if we find anything in the vehicle that potentially belongs to the original owner, then we contact them as well. But we definitely contact the owner every time.
Thank you, Staff Sergeant.
Thanks. If there's no more discussion, just want to thank you, Staff Sergeant, again for the report and coming in, and thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you to the council.
You're welcome. And I'm just going to call a break for lunch. We'll be back at around 1 o'clock. 162 from the corporate officer regarding amendments to council procedure bylaw number 4374 2018. I guess maybe just before we go to council, I just wanted to touch a little bit and then maybe have Tab give a bit of an overview. But one for myself, when I first, I guess we can receive it for discussion first, actually. I'll let somebody go forward. Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Your Worship. Receive for discussion.
Second, Councillor McDonald. I'll call that to vote. Councillor Sudnick, could you see if Councillor Kemp's card's pulled out? Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Very well. We're good. Okay, the vote is closed. It's carried. Okay, just before I open this up to council, just wanted to, thank Tab for bringing this forward and all the work that went into it. This is probably close to a year ago that we talked about maybe moving meetings every 3 weeks. And it was kind of when I was new into this role, and Kevin as well. So, it feels like since then, there was some reasons why we brought it forward then, and it was getting complicated for staff to get things done. But it feels like since then there's been a good routine and system going, and I don't feel that necessarily anymore being in the office. I don't know if we've just got a understanding of how things work, and maybe that's just my opinion. But that was originally why we talked about maybe moving the meetings more apart. So that's why I brought that forward at that time. So I just wanted to touch on that a little bit, maybe have, and then I know
wanted to get Tab to give a bit of an update on everything else, because there's some things around voting on and some policies that we already have, and maybe just different set of eyes on it, and yeah, maybe just get Kevin's thoughts too on if we want to still go forward, or the team feels like it's worth going forward to do every 3 weeks meetings. But yeah, so I don't know if you wanted to give a bit of an overview, Tab, or.
Sure. Thank you, Your Worship. So council meetings every 2 weeks. Currently, the council procedure bylaw notes that council meetings will be on Mondays of every 2 weeks. So attached to the report was the schedule as we normally would proceed on a Monday every 2 weeks. And also attached to the report are 2 other options for a 3-week schedule. And you can see that the 3-week schedule, because we work around conferences and meetings and stat holidays, it doesn't allow for very many meetings. I think the first option was 15 council meetings. And then the second 3-week cycle option, if council were to make a motion to have meetings on a different day, not a Monday, perhaps the day after a stat holiday, so the Tuesday, then it really only added 1 more meeting per year. So there is language within the current council procedure bylaw that allows council to call a special meeting. So you could do that to make up for any business that's waiting that you feel that's important to take care of right away. But the fewer meetings could mean that current issues just might take a little bit longer to deal with. So it's really up to council what you feel. If you feel like the current schedule is enough to deal with the issues at hand, or if you would like to try a 3-week schedule.
Okay. Thank you. And then did you want to give an overview on any of the other parts of this, or do you want to just wait to see as things come up? Because
if there's any discussion through your worship on the cycle, then if we could go through that, and then we could go through each of the, that'd be, thanks.
So Kevin, I guess just to you as well, like, what are your thoughts on the schedule?
So through your worship, yeah, I remember when we chatted about this, there's definitely, from a staff perspective, there's advantages to 3-week schedules from a workload perspective, because that extra week does give staff more time for reports. But operationally, on the report side, as Tab indicated, if you go on a 3-week cycle, it's going to be a challenge for individuals who may bring applications forward that require it to come to council, or bylaws that have to go to 2 councils. Now you're talking 6 weeks just for those meetings, let alone the lead up to it. You could just see where things could really start to take a long time. So that is one concern that, both Tab and I had from a customer service perspective. That might be a challenge. So I also agree that, things are clicking along pretty good right now. Our staff are trained up and doing a great job. So that's helpful as well.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Councillor Parslow.
Did you get any information about how many councils have their meetings in the evenings to improve the availability of people to attend meetings when they're not working? I know quite a few large councils meet in the evenings.
Through your worship to Councillor Parslow, no, that wasn't something that we took a look at. If that's the will of council, then that is something that we can bring back.
Okay, so I don't know if is there any other I get the other part. I'm a reminder that this is in committee of the whole, so we're not making decisions right now. This is just about getting the staff some direction on, if there is going to be changes, what they are, and then they can bring something forward to us. So this is really just open discussion. So I guess as far as the schedule goes, for me, I'm fine with the way it is. Like one, things are going well, but 2, after talking to Tab a bit too about learning about
maybe some of the difficulties that might come with, one meeting a month and the time to turn things around and the consistency of doing special meetings. That was another thing that added to me, thinking that maybe just keeping it the way it is better, and it's going well. So, Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Your Worship. I was going to say most of the same things, right? The 2-week schedule seems to work well. I fear the 3-week schedule with bylaw changes, everything that our CAO brought up, taking so much longer, so much more delay, might be a disservice to our residents and our citizens. So I'd prefer to see us stay with the 2-week.
Okay. Thanks, Councillor McDonald. Anybody else have any other thoughts on schedule? We can go. Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Worship. Yeah, just really quickly, I guess my support of getting more information back had to do with what would ultimately, based on some feedback from staff around, the turnaround time and how the constant rush to, validate the or work on the motions that we put forward sometimes felt like they weren't actually able to, just feeling rushed and hurried and creating undue stress. And but if we're saying that we're comfortable with the pace of things and the turnaround time on things, and we think we're up to the task, that's fine. With respect to Councillor Parslow's note about evening meetings, as somebody with a full-time job who takes vacation days to be here, I wouldn't be opposed to it, but I also respect that might have some implications for some staff members around having to then secure childcare in the evening, which wouldn't, once again, it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other, robbing Peter to pay Paul, I guess. So whichever, I'm not opposed to the current way we do things for the most part. I know not so much this council, but previous council, especially during COVID, when we had to turn around stuff, make decisions and policy on a very short, compressed timeline. There were instances where we did email polls as well that we later have to ratify retroactively in a council meeting. And I don't think that, although it's not the preferred way of doing things, I think in a pinch, that's still acceptable. So I think that allows for that kind of flexibility we like.
Thanks, Councillor Earl. All right. Okay, so we'll move on to, I guess the next part would be, is it the general amendments? Okay. Did you want to just give a brief overview after each? Okay.
Sure. Thank you, through your worship.
You're welcome.
So, general amendments, this came forward from Councillor Parslow in a memo to provide the chair with the ability to accept an amendment to a motion by unanimous consent. And if unanimous consent is provided, then no amending motion is required. And this came, I believe, Councillor Parslow, you can correct me if I'm wrong, from the regional orientation session where Elimina provided an educational session, and he noted within that session that this is something that council could do. And so staff investigated the council procedure bylaw of 10 different municipalities, so more northern municipalities, with, I guess, the exception of 100 Mile House is included. And of those 10, one had the provision for a friendly amendment, which could be something similar to Councillor Parslow's suggestion. However, there's no definition of what that might be. So Robert's Rules has a definition of a friendly amendment, but staff would suggest that if council would like to have amendments that are friendly or non-contentious, then there should be defining language within the council procedure bylaw, just so everyone is aware on how to make that or take that process.
Okay, thanks, Tab. Councillor Parslow?
Just to add to what has been shared, yes, it was exactly as you described from that regional orientation. And the procedure simply is if Councillor Earl, for instance, made an amendment to an existing motion, the chair would say, do we have unanimous consent? If unanimous consent is given, then the amendment is automatically adopted, but the chair asks the question, is there unanimous consent? One of the things that I observed over many councils is when we get into amending things, we suddenly turn a meeting, often, not always, often turn a meeting that is flowing quite nicely into a bit of a free-for-all, uncertainties. Then you have amendments to amendments. All he said that this democratizes, but also enables a more speedy resolution, because so many amendments are obvious that everybody's comfortable with them. So why do you go through all the motion and voting? So that's why I suggested it.
Yeah, I think I'm fine with whatever is more efficient and works, right? I guess the one thing that I look at is like this, would help meetings maybe flow a little bit. We don't deal with a lot of these, but I look at how much time it took you to do this. And I'm like, okay, so, to request this and then it has to come back. And then, so is your time worth our efficiencies speeding up a tiny bit? So I just, that's just my thought process when I see this, but I'm all for like, if there's ways we can do things simpler. But if I'm to ask in this scenario, unanimous, and we use a digital voting system, so am I just hoping everybody's going to nod their head yes? Or like, cause is it more efficient? Cause now when I kind of do that, I mean, I don't,
Here's the clue. So Aspie, do we have unanimous?
I know it on a voting system where we digitally vote. So I'm saying yes or no to everybody. Everybody's voting for or against or opposed or on something like this. Am I then looking to make sure everybody's nodding their head? Yes. Like, I guess it's just a question.
Well, you just simply might disagrees, you'll say no. Okay? And that means we then have to vote.
Okay.
Yeah, through your worship, that's how I understand it, is if when the call for unanimous consent, if someone says, no, I think we need to talk about it, or no, then that's when you would go to a vote. Otherwise, there is no vote.
Right.
That's kind of the intent of the unanimous consent.
So then they would push their button and speak, so. Okay. What were you going to say, something, Tab? Or?
I was, through your worship, just that Kevin said exactly what it is. There would not be a formal vote on the voting system. It would be a verbal confirmation.
Yeah.
So as long as everybody provided their verbal confirmation stating, yeah, we're going to change something simple in the motion. Staff's concern is if someone isn't as familiar with that process, then they may be agreeing to something that perhaps that they didn't really agree to in the first place.
Yeah, and I guess that what I'm saying a little bit is like, so I get, maybe it's spending a lot of time on something that's smaller, but it's like, if I'm asking that anyways, and I'm looking to make sure everybody's in consent or not, it's just as easy to vote for the amendment. Because where does it save any time? Or where does it make it less clunky? Because I'm still doing the exact same thing, asking to vote, except we're not voting. I'm asking, is it unanimous? I got to look at everybody. It's kind of the same amount of time. I mean, does it save a little bit of staff time having to type in an amendment? Because you're already typing it in, right? So, yeah, I don't know, just conversation around it. Councillor McDonald?
Well, thank you, Worship. My feeling is with this council here being such a good, respectful, high-functioning council, this works well, right? Just having a quick, unanimous Yep, sure, absolutely, right. How does that put the city moving forward past this council, right? I think we need to think beyond just ourselves here and think about the future as well, right? Because I agree, somebody may, oh, I didn't understand that's what we were nodding our head to, and then we're going back, and now you've just created more issues, right, than you've saved, right? Possibly.
And we're not, I'm not against this at all or for it. I don't know whatever's right. But at the same time, you're talking about maybe one amendment, a council meeting. Right. So it's not, I've been to council meetings where there's numerous ones, but yeah. So I don't know. Has anybody else got any? Yeah, it's kind of how I am too. But I don't know if that gives you any direction. Does, are you?
It's fine. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, you're welcome. All right, the next one, ending debates.
Thank you, Your Worship. So according to our current council procedure bylaw, the following procedures apply to voting at a council meeting. When a debate on a matter is closed, the presiding member must put the matter to a vote. However, it doesn't say the process on how you come to the conclusion that the debate is ended. So if council would like more robust information or more clarification or language within the council procedure bylaw that gives direction as to who and how debate is ended, then I can add that. For example, if council prefers the chair to call a motion to end the debate, we can add that language in the council procedure bylaw. Or if council is just happy for the presiding member or the chair, the mayor, to just look around the table and say, is there any new information coming forward on this matter? If not, I'll call the question. Then that can also be added. So it's up to council on how they'd like to deal with that.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I guess my point on that, I think, I don't even know if it's happened the year I've been sitting here, but I find if there was debate back and forth, if it got to the point where it was just the same thing, it would be really about, is there any new information? If you don't have any new information, I would call the question, but I'm not going to, just cut Councillor Sednick off and be like, I think this is enough because it's not going my way. But it's, yeah, I don't know. We haven't really experienced any of it, but that's, my understanding as the chair is where I would go is if there was dialogue back and forth and there was no new information, I would say is there any new information to bring to discussion? But Councillor Parslow?
Well, Mayor Dober, you are living with a council that excels in flexibility and collegiality. That hasn't always been the case. And when information is being presented that an individual doesn't like, they can call the question, and then by our rules, you must then put the thing to vote, and it cuts off debate. So I'm sure within the culture of the present council, no one wants to cut off debate and railroad because they believe they've got a majority, right? Discussions. So I'm just saying the whole thrust of that excellent resource person we had, right, was really to democratize, right, and enable more meaningful use of time, but also to allow the voices to be heard. So different chairs, right, have different styles. And I'm suggesting to you that one person should not have the authority to end debate. Doesn't matter if they're the chair or a councillor. it needs to be put, if there is a call, then the procedure, and I'm just going on long-term memory here of what the workshop was all about. If somebody wants to end the debate, they make a motion, and that motion must be voted upon. It isn't just, it's the motion to end the debate has to be voted upon. Not one person saying, I call the vote, and that's not debatable. Do you see the difference?
Well, I guess, I see the difference for sure,
Yeah,
but
okay.
I mean, maybe just a tab, like in today's procedures and policies, can Councillor, Sudnick not like what Councillor Earl's saying and just say, I want to end debate and call that? Or is it only the chair that can do that?
Thank you, Your Worship. To answer your question, currently in the council procedure bylaw, it's the chair. It says when the debate on a matter is closed. So it doesn't lead up to how that debate is closed. So procedurally, I can see what has been happening is that you are asking council if there's any more discussion on the matter. However, if I'm understanding Councillor Parslow correctly, not everybody perhaps has done that in the past. So in order to prevent something like that happening, perhaps language regarding that in order to close the debate, the chair must ask council if there's any other further discussion on the matter. If you want in the council procedure bylaw for a motion, then we can put that. And then it's very prescriptive, but every time you want to end debate, then you're going to need to call for a motion, and that motion is 2/3 majority.
Right.
Under
But and then
Robert's
anybody
rules.
can call that.
Generally, it's the presiding member or the chair that would call that. So you can have a general statement in the council procedure bylaw that is the chair is asking everyone if there's any more discussion on the matter, or you can put it very prescriptive where there must be a motion. So that's up to council to decide.
Okay.
If I could just, so the procedure, the common procedure
Sure, bud.
is that if I call the question, right, then the question must be put. That's Robert's Rules of Orders. And unless we've got explicit language that says that aspect of Robert's Rules of Orders is not to be followed, okay, and we have some other rules that we're following, that's been a common practice in all sorts of governments. If somebody calls it, so I'm tired of listening to the mayor wanting to do this and his henchman Mike and his buddy Jeremy, whereas we feel different. So he nods to Mike, that means call the question. Debate's ended, the question must be put. Amy's snuck out and they've got a majority.
A very Machiavellian.
So,
Sorry, Tab.
It's okay. Through your worship to Councillor Parslow, just for some clarification on what Robert's Rule says around debate. When a debate appears to have concluded, the chair may ask again, are you ready for the question, or is there any further debate? The right of members to debate or introduce secondary motions cannot be cut off by the chair's attempt to put the question to vote so quickly that no member can get to the floor. So that is not the case. Because the question is called does not mean that the debate has ended. It needs to be a consensus from council that nobody else has anything further to bring on the topic. That's in Robert's Rules.
Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Worship. Going back a couple of points, whether or not it's strictly the chair that could call the question or any member, I could see any member of council needing to, because you could have a mayor that is very passionate about something but isn't getting his his way per se and refuses to call the question until he browbeats everybody into his way of thinking, right? So if we are going to make, a bylaw on that, I would say it should be chair or any council could do it, just to stop the power of the chair to not call the question, right? To actually force the situation.
I understand that for sure, and I guess like thinking ahead for councils in the future, because I don't think we have that here, but that could work the opposite way too. Like if a two councillors are debating back and forth, like, and Councillor Sudnick's had enough of listening to you.
Yeah.
He can call where like the chair, it's in my orientation that I have to take neutral ground and have open. So there is other things in place to protect that from happening. So if I did that, you could call me on that, right? Being like, I don't think you're being.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm just,
To add to what your worship is saying in response to Councillor McDonald, that is correct. A member of council could call a point of order.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hypothetical rivalries.
What? And like Councillor McDonald said it earlier, like don't, what'd you say? Don't break something.
not broke, right?
Don't fix it. Yeah, I get like, and things are going good, make it, but Councillor Earl?
Yeah, I mean, this is an interesting conversation. I don't know if there's any urgency with respect to the dynamics of this council, but there are certainly some fairly dramatic examples across the province and other municipalities where, individuals' egos maybe get in the way of good governance or good faith conversations. And, that's ultimately, I guess, why we have policies is not necessarily to stifle ourselves as individuals so much as to, if it weren't us in these positions, what standard of conduct would be expected of whoever was in this chair, and what policies would we want in place to constrain them and hold them to account and ensure that the business of government gets done. So, I don't see a tremendous amount of urgency in this. To Councillor Parslow's point, though, there have been instances in the past where you come away from a conversation feeling it was rushed, or that, a decision was made because it was, the make of council at that moment because someone was away for the day. You find yourself in a position where, or, you weren't given enough information and you felt hurried in the decision because it was advantageous to someone, and that's never ideal. Like I say, I don't think that's an issue with this particular council. As interesting as all these hypothetical scenarios sound, and as much as they'd make for compelling viewing for the 14 people on Facebook, I'm not opposed to, if Councillor Parslow feels for future councils, we need to constrain the ability of the chair to cut off debate. Having said that, I don't think there's anything to prohibit future councils from adjusting the policy accordingly at that time if they find it's to their advantage. So at the end of the day, I guess it falls to voters. Elect good people that won't put their colleagues in that position.
Thanks, Councillor Earl. You good on that tab? Okay. Do you want to, next one was informal discussion.
Okay, so informal discussion. So mentioned earlier in the report, a matter cannot be discussed until it is proposed as a motion for a specific action. However, regarding Councillor Parslow's request, Section 52 of Robert's Rules, in regarding Elimina's reference, suggests that during a committee of the whole where a topic is introduced and the committee's recommendations must be reported to the assembly for action. So in this case, the committee member thinks that the motion requires informal discussion. essentially, it suspends the rule of limiting the number of times a member may speak and debate on the main question. We hadn't discussed it earlier, but also within Robert's rules, it says that a member may only discuss on a matter 2 times. So informal discussion would take that away. So you could just discuss it at length.
So I guess just some clarity on what the change is, because right now something could be moved to committee of the whole and we can have informal discussion. Is that like we are right now?
We have a motion on the floor, so it's not informal.
Oh, okay.
Through your worship. No, I think that the understanding on how it was presented by Alanna was not used in a regular council meeting. It would be used in committee of the whole. However, this current council discusses matters sometimes more than once, more than twice, more than 3 times. Everybody seems to have their turn at saying something. So the use of informal discussion during a committee of the whole, I didn't put an action here as I didn't feel it was necessary. However, if Councillor Parslow wanted to elaborate on that, I would be happy to hear what he has to say.
Okay. There's been countless incidences where the council wanted to just talk about something, not actually speak to a particular motion. They have no idea what the topic is about. They want a whole bunch of background information. And so essentially that leads to people voting on things that they don't really know anything about. They've got no briefings on, or they didn't understand the briefings. The whole thrust of this presentation, right, was about safeguarding the democratic process in local government. I'm not even aware that do we have a motion that we follow Robert's Rules of Orders, or is it, unless we amend it, right? Is that right?
It's in the council procedure bylaw, noting that if it's silent within the bylaw, Robert's Rules is followed.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. So we've, I think the practice of this council, and we don't do things, make procedural things just for this council in mind, we do it for future councils. We have had the opportunity for some informal discussions. And again, I get confused because things change or get a different twist, you know. But you know, you can't have an informal discussion. But you must have a motion to, I move that we receive this for discussion, which is what's been happening. So what is it in the bylaw? The bylaw, if we've slipped in our practice, in this case in a positive direction, then that should be reflected in our bylaw, because the gentleman, Milo, was it? What's that?
Through your worship to Councillor Parslow, Alanna.
Right. His whole thrust, right, was around democratizing procedures. So if people feels that they'd like to have an informal discussion, they should be allowed to. That's I agree with that.
Good, thank you. You're good, Tab? Okay. Other comments? Okay, and then I guess the next one was strategic priorities, just moving it on the agenda, the order. Does anybody have any? So just moving, it would be open the meeting, delegations, and then we would give a strategic priority update before we get into anything else. Everybody okay with that? Yeah, I guess yeah, okay. Councillor Parslow, did you want to?
Well, yes, I think the strategic priorities is the most important thing from the point of view of the elected officials. I'm not saying that the business that staff do on a routine basis is not important, it's essential. But for us, the most important thing should be working on and the progress of our strategic initiatives. So that shouldn't be stuck at the end. I think that should be the first.
Yeah, I agree with that. And, not that we don't give all of us all day when we're in here, but, it's definitely important to us and should be first thing. So I agree. All right. Anything else? No? Go ahead, Tab.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a clarification on that. So if we move the agenda item, strat priorities up, what is council's wish to be included on that? Just the current strategic priority chart? Is there additional information? Is something different than we're already doing?
Well, I think it would just be the chart one would get moved up because, Kevin usually gives an update on that and where we're at and what we're working on. And my thoughts would be all of it. Councillor Parslow?
No, go ahead.
Well, I'm hoping that after the month of November, we have an action plan for each strategic direction. And staff would be reporting, or if it's something that you're leading, what actions have taken place in the action plan? How did it work? What's the next steps? And you continually, so you're working on your strategic directions, but you're really reporting on the action plan for each. So it'll be a much bigger document. If you look at the Doyd River strategic plan, they're reporting on the actions, right?
On each of the actions.
Yeah. So right now, all that staff has is a set of strategic initiatives, which I think we all support, right? But soon there'll be far more detail to it. There'll be an action plan. And so Kevin might say, on this particular action, we met, we completed the task, we decided we needed to do da-da-da, and we've added that to our action plan. Or, no, we got derailed on that, we didn't work on it, so now we've moved the start date for this action from November to January. It's a fluid document, right?
Okay.
That's how I see it.
Yeah, thank you. Kevin, did you want to?
Through your worship, yeah, I think Councillor Parslow hit a lot of that, and that's just kind of what I was envisioning and questioning at the same time was what this could look like. And so what I'm seeing is very much that as a fluid document that will be amended as we go, but then we'll, so it's always current and it's updated. I haven't figured out the logistics of that, but that's what I'm seeing is, and the ability for whoever's responsible for particular items within that document to being able to update it on a regular basis. So it is a living document. That's kind of what I see.
Yeah, that's what I kind of envisioned too. And if there was 5 things out of the 50 or whatever that you were working on in that 2 or 3 week period, you could just give brief updates on this is where we're at, and just so council and the staff. I mean,
for sure,
the team would probably be more into it. So yeah. Okay. Perfect. Anything else, Tab? You're good on all your report? Yeah. Okay. You're welcome. All right. So next order of business is recess to closed meeting. 17.1, resolution to move into meeting of council closed to the public. Agenda items 3.1 and 4.1, section 90 minutes as previously noted. Agenda items 2.1 and 7.3, section 91J, information that is prohibited or information that, if it were presented in a document, would be prohibited from disclosure under section 21 of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. Agenda items 6.1 and 7.1, section 91E, the acquisition, disposition, or expiration of land or improvements if the council considers that disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality. Agenda item 7.1, section 91C, labor relations or other employee relations.
Agenda item 7.2, section 91K, negotiations and related discussions respecting the proposed provision of a municipal service that are at their preliminary stages and that in the view of the council could reasonably be expected to harm the interest of the municipality if they were held in public. Councillor Sudnick, second Councillor Earl. I will call that to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. All right, we'll take however long we need and go into closed.